Chapter 2098. 2098 Under the Northern Alliance. Which faction destroyed the Central Sky Dynasty? Could it be that they've angered Eternal Shocking Thunder? In the council, an old man wearing a divine crown on his head frowned with a dignified expression. He looked at the old man who had just spoken. As soon as he finished speaking, more than 10 people looked over in confusion. The Central Sky Dynasty had been destroyed, and many people had yet to receive any information. Out of the 100 or so planets in the northern region, Eternal Thunderclap occupied about 70. The other 70 or so planets were divided among 20 or 30 forces. The Divine Dynasty occupied 4 of them. They were definitely among the stronger forces. The Emperor of the Divine Dynasty had lit 9 wisps of divine fire. Among them, it was definitely a high-ranking mission. It's not Eternal Thunder. It's a new force called the Dragon Palace. We haven't figured out where this Dragon Palace came from yet. But we can confirm that the leader of this force, the Dragon King, has the strength of 9 wisps of divine fire. Most importantly, they have at least 4 gods of 8 wisps of divine fire and 50 to 60 gods. The old man who spoke to them. What? 50 to 60 gods? Everyone was slightly shocked, and shock appeared on their faces. A faction had 50 to 60 gods. In the entire northern region, there was only one faction that had 50 to 60 gods, and that was the Northern Expedition Trading Company. In the northern region, the Northern Expedition Trading Company was the strongest faction apart from Eternal Thunderclap. It was also a member of the Northern Region Alliance. After the Northern Region Alliance was established, the Northern Expedition Trading Company wanted to become the alliance leader, but it was opposed by other forces. In the end, the balance was balanced, and 5 forces were chosen to become directors. The 5 directors had the power to decide. The other forces listened to the orders of the 5 directors. The Central Sky Dynasty was one of the directors. If the Central Sky Dynasty is destroyed, the Dragon Palace will naturally take over the position of the Central Sky Dynasty and resist the Devil Denver. It's impossible to lose them. A middle-aged man said with a frown. That's right. However, with the strength of that force, it has the right to become a council member. Does any force have any objections to that force becoming a council member? The old man from the Northern Expedition Trading Company asked indifferently. Let a new force become a council member directly. An old man beside him frowned slightly. If they don't become a council member, who can order them? Another old man frowned slightly. The powerful ones occupy the positions of 5 directors. Directors have great power and responsibilities. Each of the 5 directors is responsible for a region. This is a responsibility. The old man from the Northern Expedition Trading Company said with a smile. In that case, find someone to contact that force. We agree. Agreed. With the power of the Dragon Palace, they have the right to resist the Devil Den. We still need to rely on them. The council members began to agree, but the other forces naturally didn't have any objections. The appearance of the Devil Den was a disaster for the entire northern region. Eternal Thunderclap was guarding their position, so the rest of the places naturally had to rely on them to unite. Otherwise, once they lost their position, they would be doomed. Dragon King, the people from the Northern Territory Alliance are going to pay their respects to the Tianyang god. In the Dragon Palace on Earth, Prime Minister Jiui reported to Wang Xian. Are they here? What a fast speed. Wang Xian nodded with a smile. With a move, he arrived in front of the teleportation formation of the Dragon Palace and went straight to the Dragon Palace on Tianyang planets. I believe this must be the Dragon King. I am the envoy of the Northern Territory Alliance. I am here to pay my respects to the Dragon King. On the sea surface of the Dragon Palace, an old man saw Wang Xian with 2 horns on his head. He immediately bowed politely. May I know why the people of the Northern Territory Alliance are here to see me, Dragon King? Wang Xian held his head up indifferently. The invisible aura from his body made the old man tremble slightly. I believe that the Dragon King should know about the matter between the Devil's Lair and the Northern Territory Alliance. The Tianyang Divine Dynasty is one of the 5 great governors of the Northern Territory Alliance. Since the Dragon Palace has destroyed them, as a member of the Northern Territory, they naturally have to take over their rights and responsibilities. Regarding the matter of the demon lair, all the powers should be duty-bound. No one will reject it. The old man said to Wang Xian with even more respect. I naturally know about this. The Dragon Palace is willing to join the Northern Territory Alliance. Wang Xian nodded his head directly. After destroying the Tianyang Divine Dynasty, Wang Xian naturally had to join the Northern Territory Alliance. The Dragon Palace could only develop faster through wars. That's good. If the Dragon King is fine, we can step into the front line. Now, all the powerhouses from all the forces are stationed at the front line to fight against the outbreak of the Devil Lair. The old man heaved a sigh of relief and said with a smile, Sure, let us make some preparations. We'll be there in 10 minutes. Wang Xian nodded and said to him, All right, I will wait for you guys here then. The old man was relieved that the matter was going so smoothly. Soon, a group of members from the Dragon Palace followed behind Wang Xian and rushed over. Half of the members from all the combat divisions of the Dragon Palace were here while the other half stayed behind to guard the Dragon Palace. Let's go. You lead the way. Wang Xian said to the old man directly. Yes. The old man's gaze swept across the group of experts led by Wang Xian. His eyes flashed with shock. He was stunned by more than 30 gods. This force was not as strong as many other forces combined. This Dragon Palace is so honest. Other forces want to retain some of their strength. Yet, he brought more than half of his forces. Is he stupid or is he demonstrating his strength? The old man's eyes were shining as he thought to himself. At the front line, 13 planets were arranged in a row. In the middle was a life planet, and the other 12 were all planets that the gods had moved over with great power. These planets were the disciples that the forces used to station their own forces. And that life planet was a planet that all the forces traded and held a meeting. The eruption of the demon lair had affected the entire star field. Even if all the factions had only sent 1/5 of their forces over, the experts gathered here were still extremely terrifying. With so many experts, there were naturally places for trade. Furthermore, the trade here had gradually surpassed that of the free planet. Under the lead of the old man, Wang Xian and the rest appeared on the life planet in the middle. Hovering above the teleportation formation, Wang Xian swept his gaze across the planet. There were many more people than the average planet. Dragon King, I'll bring you guys to a place to rest. If nothing goes wrong, there should be a meeting tomorrow. At that time, all the representatives of the forces will be here. The old man gestured to Wang Xian and said with a smile, There's no need. I remember that the Tianyang dynasty has a planet stationed here. As Wang Xian spoke, he looked around and locked his gaze on a planet. In his eyes, there were many people on that planet. Let's go. We were the ones who destroyed the Tianyang dynasty. Naturally, some of the inheritance will belong to us. As Wang Xian spoke, he flew directly towards that planet. Dragon King. When the old man heard Wang Xian's words, his expression changed slightly. He shouted, but Wang Xian ignored him. Chapter 2099. 2099 was strong. That planet seems to have been occupied by the Yu Huatian celestial sect. I hope there won't be any conflict. When the old man saw Wang Xian and the rest flying over, his expression turned ugly as he hurriedly followed behind them. Those who dared to occupy the territory of the Tianyang Celestial Empire as soon as it was destroyed were naturally not weak. The Yu Huatian Celestial Sect was much stronger than the Tianyang Celestial Empire. The Tianyang dynasty only had one god with 9 wisps of divine fire, but they had 2. They were also one of the directors of the alliance. But the distance between the 13 planets was not very far. Each of them was only a distance of a few 100,000 kilometers. A distance of a few 100,000 kilometers was not very far for Wang Xian and the rest. Soon, they were floating at the 3rd planet on the right. Wang Xian swept his gaze across the star. The star was still in the void. There was only a palace facing the sunlight. The palace occupied an area of 70 to 80 kilometers. It could be said to be a small city. It's not bad to use this place as a base. Wang Xian revealed a satisfied expression as he flew straight into the palace below. More than 10,000 members of the Dragon Palace flew over in a mighty manner. Which faction dares to step into the planet of our Yuhuashan sect? Just as Wang Xian arrived in the sky above this planet, a cold voice was heard. A middle-aged man flew into the sky and stared at Wang Xian and the rest with a cold gaze. He frowned slightly. This should be the planet of the Tianyang Divine Dynasty. Our Dragon Palace is here to collect our spoils of war. Get your people out of here immediately. Wang Xian looked at the middle-aged man indifferently and shouted directly to the area below. His voice covered the entire palace. Who dares to get us out of here? At this moment, figures flew out from the palace below. The person in the lead was a young man. The young man was dressed in a yellow robe and held a divine staff in his hand. A cold expression appeared on his face. He stared at Wang Xian intently and swept his gaze across the crowd behind Wang Xian. There was no fear in his eyes. Behind the young man, there were many other young men. Their heads were prominent, and one look was enough to tell that they were extraordinary. The Tianyang Divine Empire was destroyed by our Dragon Palace. Their things naturally belong to us. This planet belongs to the Tianyang Divine Empire. Now we will take over. Wang Xian looked at the young man indifferently and said expressionlessly, "Oh, you guys have taken over? I'm sorry, we have already taken control of this place a few days ago. If you guys want it, you can ask the Tianyang Divine Dynasty for it. This is the territory of our Yuhuashan sect. The ones who should get lost now are you guys." The yellow-robed young man raised his head and said with a cold expression, "A new faction is actually so arrogant. Don't you know how to keep a low profile? Even that whatever Dragon King of yours wouldn't dare to be so arrogant." Behind the young man, a girl looked at Wang Xian and said indifferently, in her opinion, this young man with two horns on his head couldn't be the leader of the Dragon Palace. After all, he was too young. Throw them out. If anyone dares to resist, kill them immediately. Wang Xian glanced at the people below and ordered Ao Qitian and the rest behind him. "It's the Dragon King." Ao Qitian nodded his head and gestured to his subordinates behind him. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In an instant, a wild dragon seed led dozens of members of the Demon War Department and flew down. "What are you doing?" The middle-aged man from the Yuhuashan sect who was floating in the air had a slight change in expression. His eyes were filled with killing intent. Walala. However, before he could react, a chain wrapped around his body. Wang. The powerful force came. The chain wrapped around his body and threw him into the void. The violent force sent him flying for more than 100,000 meters before he could stabilize his body. The middle-aged man was completely dumbfounded. "Damn it, what are you trying to do?" The yellow-robed young man's expression changed. Wang. Suddenly, he saw a violent figure appear in front of him. The figure stretched out a claw and grabbed his body. So. The powerful force directly threw him into the air. So. In an instant, more than 10 figures were thrown into the air. In the palace below, some people noticed the situation and flew into the sky one by one. Ao Qitian waved his arm. A chain filled the sky and directly restrained the bodies of more than 10,000 people there. Whoosh, whoosh. With a casual wave of his hand, all of them were thrown into the void. Arrange the accommodation for the members of the Dragon Palace. Anyone who steps into the territory of the Dragon Palace, kill them all. Wang Xian ordered Ao Qitian and the rest. You are trying to provoke our Yuhuashan sect. Let me tell you, the Dragon Palace, don't be arrogant. The yellow-robed young man and the rest were thrown into the sky at a height of more than 100,000 meters. They looked a little dumbfounded. They shouted sternly with murderous intent on their faces. Young Master Yuan Feng, don't be rash. Let's go and call for the experts of the divine sect immediately. The middle-aged man saw the yellow-robed young man's ferocious expression and quickly said, "Arrogant fellow, you actually don't put our Yuhuashan divine sect in your eyes. I will make you pay a heavy price." The yellow-robed young man growled in a low voice with a gloomy expression. He moved his palm and a signal flare appeared in his hand. He threw it directly into the sky. Boom! Boom! A rumbling sound was heard. The eye-catching signal flare suddenly lit up the starry sky. Wang Xian glanced at it indifferently. He ignored it and directly entered the palace. Since the Dragon Palace was here, they had to be more powerful. Only the stronger they were, the more others would be afraid. Moreover, with the current strength of the Dragon Palace, they didn't need to be too apprehensive, especially after he obtained 2 star-protecting formations. He had gained control of the other 3 planets of the Divine Central Dynasty and 2 star-protecting arrays. When the array was activated, it could block attacks from anyone below the Eternal God Lord level, and the array could cover the entire planet. This planet should have belonged to the Dragon Palace in the first place. How could he agree if other forces wanted to take this fruit? Moreover, there must have been some treasures here in the past. It was already good enough that he did not pursue the treasures now. What happened? It seems to be a distress signal from the Yu Huatian sect. What happened to the Yu Huatian sect? When the signal flare bloomed in the sky, everyone on the 13 planets could see it clearly. The distress signal that belonged to the Yu Huatian sect caused everyone to be slightly stunned. What happened? On one of the planets, the expressions of the Yu Huatian sect experts changed slightly when they saw the signal in the sky. "Let's go! Let's go!" Instantly, more than a dozen gods flew over to their location. "Let's go and watch the show." Some people from other factions showed interest as they flew over. I didn't expect the Dragon King of the Dragon Palace to be so powerful. The old man who brought Wang Xian and the rest over revealed a bitter expression. To clash with Yu Huashan sect as soon as he arrived was not good news for the entire alliance. Chapter 2100. 2100 had made a feud. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. On the 3rd star to the right of the center, figures emitting terrifying auras flew over. Who dares to provoke my Yu Huatian divine sect? A furious roar sounded out as a vast figure flew over quickly. His voice resounded across the entire sky. "We pay our respects to the Grand Elder." The yellow-robed young man and the others immediately shouted when they saw the elders and experts from the divine sect flying over. What happened? The leader was a white-bearded elder. He looked at the yellow-robed young man and the others with a dignified gaze and asked indifferently, "Grand Elder, the forces from the Dragon Palace just arrived. They threw us out of this planet and even told us to get lost. If we dare to enter, they will kill us." The middle-aged god beside the yellow-robed young man reported to the Grand Elder of the Yu Huanan divine sect with an extremely embarrassed expression. "Greetings, Grand Elder of the Yu Huatian divine sect. Today, I am under orders to invite the Dragon King of the Dragon Palace to join our Northern Territory Alliance. This planet used to belong to the Tianyang divine dynasty. Hence, when the Dragon King came, he wanted to take it back directly. This might be a little reckless." When the old man who brought Wang Xian and the rest saw this scene, he hesitated for a moment before flying to the side and speaking respectfully. His words were vague because he did not dare to say anything. Dragon Palace. Destroy the Tianyang Divine Dynasty's Dragon Palace. Yu Huatian sect's supreme elder swept a glance at the old man. He narrowed his eyes slightly and a cold glint flashed across his eyes. The one who destroyed the entire Sky-End Divine Dynasty? They offended the Yu Huashan sect right after they arrived? That Dragon Palace seems to be very mysterious. They didn't have any information in the past. As soon as they appeared, they destroyed the entire Sky-End Divine Dynasty. They are extremely powerful. However, they dared to provoke the Yu Huashan sect right after they arrived. Aren't they being a little arrogant? Around them, some people who had come to watch the show revealed surprised expressions when they heard the conversation. They were all whispering to each other. Even if he has the strength to destroy the Tianyang divine dynasty, our Yu Huashan sect is not so easy to bully. The Yu Huashan sect's grand elders stared at the people below with a sinister gaze. A new faction dares to throw our disciples out. If we let this go, what face will the Yu Huatian divine sect have? As the supreme elder of the Yu Huatian divine sect said this, he waved his arm and a great sun gathered in the sky. Only a faction with 9 divine flames dared to provoke them. Who gave them the courage? The great sun was about 100 kilometers wide and emitted an aura of destruction. Everyone's expression changed slightly when they saw this scene. Yu Huatian divine sect supreme, please reconsider. The old man who brought Wang Xian and the rest had a slight change in expression as he shouted hurriedly. However, the old man clearly ignored him. He waved his arm and the 100-kilometer-long great sun directly attacked the stars below. Oh, you really dare to come over? Since that's the case, I shall have a duel with all of you. Wang Xian, who was in the palace of stars below, sensed the attack from above. A cold look appeared in his eyes. With a wave of his arm, the 5 elements millstone levitated into the sky and charged towards the great sun. In an instant, a terrifying explosion reverberated throughout the entire starry sky. The terrifying 5 elements millstone collided with the great sun of flames. The entire great sun collapsed immediately. River of annihilation. Wang Xian didn't care who the opponent was. Since the opponent dared to attack them, he wouldn't hold back. The 100-kilometer-long river of annihilation immediately charged out from the 5 elements millstone and covered the sky. Damn it. The supreme elder of the Yu Huatian divine sect's expression changed slightly when he saw his attack collapsing instantly. He stared at the river of annihilation and a grave expression appeared on his face. He waved his arm and a sea of flames fell toward the river of annihilation. Oh no, they are fighting. Quickly dodge. When the figures saw the sudden outbreak of battle, their expressions changed drastically. They had expected the Supreme Elder to make a move, but they did not expect the Dragon Palace in the palace to go on a rampage. The battle between the 9 wisps of divine fire was an existence that could destroy stars. Once they were affected, they would die without a doubt. One figure after another quickly scattered into the distance. What? In the middle of the battlefield, when the sea of fire collided with the river of annihilation and was quickly dissolved, the Yu Huatian sect's supreme elder's expression changed. Flame lava. He waved his arm, and a majestic fire attribute landed in the sea of fire, turning it into flaming lava. Buzz. In the Northern Territory Alliance, everything is focused on fighting against the demon cave. Internal strife is forbidden. Disperse. Suddenly, a vast voice sounded. Following that, everyone saw a terrifying palm of light grabbing towards the river of annihilation and the flaming lava. The palm of light, which covered 200 to 300 kilometers, grabbed the river of obliteration and the lava of flames. Buzz. The 2 terrifying attacks disappeared. Vice President of the Northern Expedition. The Supreme Elder of the Yu Huashan sect felt a chill in his heart. He immediately stopped what he was doing. The experts of the Northern Expedition Chamber of Commerce are making their move. Now that we are defending against the demon cave, there is no way we are going to let an internal fight break out. Some people heaved a sigh of relief when they saw the gigantic palm. On the life planet, a bright figure was floating there and looking over. Everyone had a look of awe on their faces. This person was an existence that was well known throughout the entire northern region. Peak of the godly state. Wang Xian looked at the bright figure and his gaze froze as he muttered. Vice President of the Northern Expedition, the people from the Dragon Palace are a little arrogant. They just arrived here and they dare to throw our divine sect disciples out. The Supreme Elder of the Yu Huashan divine sect said to the Vice President of the Northern Expedition. Those who dared to occupy the spoils of war from our dragon palace and didn't kill you are already giving you face. Wang Xian replied coldly when he heard his words. Alright, it's just a star. Since there are no casualties, let's just forget about it. Let's give this star to the dragon palace. The demon cave army has already entered the forest of darkness. The war has already begun. This is not the time for internal strife. The bright figure said to them with an unquestionable tone. Since the vice president of the Northern Expedition has said so, we shall not hold it against them. The supreme elder of the Yuhuashan sect nodded his head. He looked at Wang Xian and said coldly, "We have plenty of time in the future. In 5 hours, the Dragon Palace will meet all of you." Wang Xian ignored the supreme elder of the Yuhuashan sect and cupped his hands at the figure of light. All right. The figure of light nodded his head and entered the life planet. Ichimj, let's go. The supreme elder of the Yu Huatian divine sect glanced at Wang Xian and snorted before leading his subordinates and leaving. The yellow-robed young man looked at Wang Xian and the rest with a face full of hatred before following behind. This faction of the Dragon Palace doesn't look easy to deal with. That's the leader of the Dragon Palace. He looks so young. Did he consume some divine pill? As expected of the faction that destroyed the Sky Center dynasty. They are not afraid of the Yu Huatian sect at all. However, their enmity has been formed. The Yu Huatian sect will not let this matter rest. Moreover, it seems that only the leader of the Dragon Palace has ignited 9 wisps of divine fire. There is a huge gap between him and the Yu Huatian sect. The Yu Huatian sect is not something the Sky Center dynasty can compare to. This leader of the Dragon Palace is a little arrogant. Everyone around whispered when they saw this scene. The arrival of the Dragon Palace had attracted a great deal of attention. Chapter 2101 2101-2101 on Subduing Demons. Northern Expedition Trading Company, Enchanting Divine Gate, Burning God Dynasty, Yuhuashan Sect. In the palace, Wang Xian muttered as he looked at a document in his hand. This document was one of the more powerful forces in the northern region. It was the only force that posed a threat to the Dragon Palace. This was especially so for the first 3 forces. All of them had experts at the peak of the godly state. They were existences that the Dragon Palace could not contend against at the moment. The main task now is to fight against the demon lair. I need to increase the strength of the Dragon Palace first. After that, I need to enter the sea of life planets with my formidable strength. Wang Xian mumbled as he planned the future development of the Dragon Palace. If he wanted to increase his strength quickly, he needed to hunt a large number of creatures. The stronger the creatures, the more benefits there would be. The invasion of the demon lair was an opportunity. Dragon King, the old man from the Northern Territory Alliance, is here to pay a visit. More than 4 hours later, the old man who led Wang Xian and the rest came to pay a visit. Dragon King of the Dragon Palace, the meeting is about to begin. I'm here to lead you there, Dragon King. The old man said respectfully to Wang Xian. After witnessing the strength of this leader, a hint of respect was added to his heart. All right, lead the way. Wang Xian nodded his head and followed the old man towards the life planet named Tianmu. In the sky above a forest, a majestic palace was suspended in the air. At the bottom of the forest, there were stalls selling all kinds of items. Weapons, elixirs, formations, pets, and more. Wang Xian took a few glances and was deep in thought. Dragon King, it's in the room on the top floor. Please come in. The old man brought Wang Xian to the door and gestured to him. Okay. Wang Xian nodded his head. He scanned his surroundings with his yin-yang and 5 elements dragon eyes. After confirming that there was no danger, he walked straight into the room. It was a huge meeting room, just like the elders' meeting in ancient Rome. At this moment, there were 33 people sitting in the meeting room. Including Wang Xian, there were a total of 34 people. This also represented the 34 factions in the northern region. Wang Xian's arrival immediately attracted everyone's attention. Looking at Wang Xian, who had 2 horns on his head and looked like a young man, everyone's eyes sparkled. Humph! A soft humph was heard in the silent meeting room. Wang Xian looked over and gave a faint smile to the white-haired elder from the Yuhuashan sect. Dragon King of the Dragon Palace greets all of you. Wang Xian swept his gaze across the crowd and cupped his hands with a smile. Dragon King, please take a seat. The benevolent-looking elder, who looked like the god of light, gestured to Wang Xian to take a seat at the side. The words Dragon Palace was written on the seat. All right. Wang Xian nodded his head and walked to his seat. There was a document on his seat regarding the resources of the Devil's Lair. Everyone, we were planning to hold this meeting tomorrow. Due to the abnormal activity in the Devil's Lair, we had no choice but to advance the meeting. The demons in the Devil's Lair have already entered the Forest of Darkness. Once they break through the Forest of Darkness, they will face us head-on. The Old Man of Light said slowly to everyone. Wang Xian raised his eyebrows slightly when he heard his words. According to the information he obtained from the expert from the Tianyang divine dynasty in his mind, the Forest of Darkness was a forest in the void. The entire forest covered an area of hundreds of millions of kilometers. Even a god at the peak of the godly state would need more than 10 hours to pass through it. The trees in this forest were rather strange to Wang Xian. They were rooted in the void with dense branches and leaves. There were a large number of demonic beasts and parasitic demonic arts in the Forest of Darkness. There were even demonic beasts at the peak of the godly state. The former Forest of Darkness belonged to the training grounds of some disciples of the Gate of God of the Celestial Dynasty. There were also people who went there to kill the demonic beasts in search of treasures. Now, the demonic army of the demon lair had entered the Forest of Darkness. Once the Forest of Darkness was occupied by them, there would be life planets next. At that time, it would be a disaster for the entire northern region. Therefore, the Northern Region Alliance had to keep Yaoxia here, or there would be endless trouble in the future. After the meeting is over, we will immediately send disciples to the Forest of Darkness to kill Yaoxia and prevent him from occupying the Forest of Darkness. Now, the strength of the Dragon Palace is qualified to be one of the 5 directors. The other forces will follow the 5 directors to fight Yaoxia. A director is responsible for an area. You must guard your own area. The old man continued. Wang Xian raised his eyebrows slightly. But at this moment, a map of the starry sky appeared in the center. At the center of the map was an enormous forest. 5 directions were marked in front of the forest. Directors, select an area. Then, we will lead our disciples and experts to rush over immediately. The old man said to the star map in the center. Right 1, our enchanting divine sect will lead the members of the alliance to take charge. Right 2, our god-burning divine dynasty will lead the members of the alliance to take charge. Left 1, our Yu Huatian divine sect will take charge. The people from the 3 major forces immediately spoke up. Some of them looked at Wang Xian and the vice president of the Northern Expedition Chamber of Commerce. Our Northern Expedition Chamber of Commerce is the strongest. Then we will choose the center. The Dragon Palace will take charge of the left 2 area. What do you think? The elder of the Northern Expedition Chamber of Commerce said faintly. Sure. Wang Xian nodded his head. All right. Now, each member of the council will lead the members of the alliance to head to the Forest of Darkness immediately. The elder of the light said in the end. Lead the members of the alliance? How many members will our Dragon Palace lead? Wang Xian was slightly taken aback before he spoke immediately. We will divide the 5 directors according to their strength. The members of the alliance will choose the directors they want to follow. The supreme elder of the Yuhuashan divine sect stood up and said with a smile. There is no hierarchy between the various factions in the Northern Region Alliance. They can choose freely. Dragon King, you can recruit some members. The Elder of Light from the Northern Expedition Chamber of Commerce also spoke at this moment. Assemble in half an hour. He swept his gaze across the surrounding people and directly disappeared. The two old men from the enchanting divine gate God-burning God dynasty smiled faintly and walked out. Immediately, a large group of people followed behind them. Joining the alliance means that we must resist the invasion of the Devil Denver. This is a rule of our northern region. If anyone dares to sit back and enjoy the fruits of their labor, our alliance will take the lead in settling down. The supreme elder of the Yuhuashan divine sect laughed out loud and walked out in a good mood. After all, he was a new faction. Even if he had some strength, the other factions would not say that they would help him. Once they helped him, the other factions would definitely suffer losses. Therefore, even if it was the Northern Expedition Chamber of Commerce, they would tacitly agree to scam the Dragon Palace. It seems that the other four factions have already divided up the factions that the Tianyang Divine Dynasty recruited. Wang Xian's eyes sparkled when he saw this scene. However, he did not say anything. He was not prepared to lead the other forces either. Although there were many benefits. Chapter 2102. 2102 under 2102 Demon Control. Gather. In the void of Tianmu planet, the disciples of various forces were flying over quickly. There were 33 forces and 5 of the strongest forces were leading them. Let's go too. Wang Xian came to the Constellation Palace and called all the members of the Dragon Palace to fly towards the void of Tianmu planet. When they arrived, they immediately saw the eye-catching 4 forces. Among the 4 forces, gods were standing at the front, followed by millions of disciples. Behind each force, there were at least millions of disciples. In the middle of the Northern Expedition Trading Company, there were more than 2 million people. TSK, all the forces of the Dragon Palace are here. There are only more than 10,000 people. At the front of the Yuhuashan sect, the Grand Elder's face was filled with mockery when he saw Wang Xian and the others flying over. Compared to the 4 forces, there were at least 1 million disciples behind them. Each of them had at least the cultivation level of a demigod. At the front, there were at least 30 to 40 powerhouses at the deity level. On the contrary, there were only about 10,000 people in the Dragon Palace. Even though there were many deities, the difference in the number of disciples was too huge. Is that the Dragon Palace? The number is too small. Although the Dragon Palace has the ability to become a director, they joined too late. All the other forces have been recruited. The Dragon Palace looks so pitiful. There are only 10,000 people. Isn't this too pitiful? Are they delivering food to Yaoxie? Didn't they say that the Dragon King of the Dragon Palace is extremely powerful? Why do they look so pitiful? The arrival of the Dragon Palace and the conflict between the Dragon Palace and the Yuhua Divine Sect made many people extremely surprised. It also made many weaker forces extremely fearful. However, when they saw the Dragon Palace at this moment, even some of the weaker forces in the northern region felt extremely pitiful. What could more than 10,000 people do? They only have a little more deity realm experts now. The difference between demigod realm experts is too big. Even if they are deity realm experts, none of our forces have fewer deity realm experts than them. Some forces looked over from time to time with smiles on their faces. Behind the Yuhuashan divine sect, the yellow-robed young man laughed disdainfully when he saw this scene. More than 10,000 people. I wonder how many will be there when they return. He said with some schadenfreude. Everyone is here. Let's go. The bright elder from the Northern Expedition Chamber of Commerce swept his gaze around and immediately gave the order. Let's go. Everyone from the Northern Region Alliance did not hesitate and flew straight into the vast void. The Forest of Darkness was about 10 million kilometers away from here. This wasn't very close to a demigod expert. A group of over 5 million people flew over, exuding a terrifying might. Close to 200 gods, and the rest were all demigods. Because they had to wait for a demigod disciple, they only arrived after an hour. The Forest of Darkness was incomparably vast from afar. Every tree was over 10,000 meters tall. In the Forest of Darkness, All the trees were dark in color. There were very few areas that had a green glow. The air of desolation that came from the storefront rushed over. What a huge forest! Wang Xian looked over and was shocked. The entire forest was many times bigger than Earth. All of a sudden, the roars of demonic beasts could be heard from within. These roars were definitely the roars of a deity-level existence. Everyone's faces were extremely solemn. According to the preassigned range, advance inside. When you encounter the demonic army, immediately block it. If one side can't block it, you can pay a certain price and ask for the support of the other forces. No escaping is allowed. Once they are found to be escaping, our Northern Territory Alliance will definitely eliminate them. Do you have any objections? The dignified voice of the Old Man of Light from the Northern Expedition Chamber of Commerce entered everyone's ears. No objections. The other three factions clearly knew the rules and immediately said indifferently. After they finished speaking, they turned their gaze towards the direction of the Dragon Palace. If your Dragon Palace cannot hold on when the time comes, Dragon King, you can kneel down and request for our support. Our Yu Huashan sect can consider it. The Supreme Elder of the Yu Huashan sect laughed out loud and said sarcastically to Wang Xian, "Just mind your own business. Don't die in there." Wang Xian looked at them indifferently and sneered. He. The Supreme Elder of the Yu Huashan sect smiled faintly. When the disciples of the surrounding factions saw this scene, their eyes sparkled. Enter and push into the forest of darkness for 800 kilometers. Act according to the situation. The bright elder from the Northern Expedition Trading Company said. Then he immediately spread out and flew into the forest. At the same time, one by one, one-eyed flying demonic beasts flew above the forest of darkness to search for information. The other three forces followed closely behind and sent out scouts to scout ahead. Let's go! Wang Xian said to the members of the Dragon Palace and immediately flew into the forest of darkness. Under the leadership of Ao Yao, the Strange Demon War Department was rebuilding the Dragon Assassin organization. Currently, the Dragon Palace lacked scouts. However, Wang Xian had the yin-yang and 5 elements dragon eyes, so he could see everything clearly within a few hundred kilometers. Even so, they still had to be extremely careful. Each of the 5 forces had to cover an area of 200,000 kilometers. With the number of members of the Dragon Palace, they had to split up. Each of them had to cover 20 kilometers. With the strength of the Dragon Palace, they could easily take care of one person at 20 kilometers. The strength of a demigod at level 9 and at the peak of 20 kilometers could be reached in a second. If there was danger, they could get reinforcements in a second. Furthermore, there were deity-level powerhouses scattered among them. Every few hundred kilometers, there would be a deity among them. Once there was a situation, the deity-level powerhouses of the Dragon Palace would be guaranteed to provide reinforcements in time. Wang Xian was in the center. He opened his yin-yang 5 elements dragon eyes and scanned his surroundings. The forest of darkness was a dangerous and treasure-filled place for cultivators. If one was lucky, he would be able to obtain the divine grass and divine fruit here. The divine beasts were wreaking havoc in there. Conservatively speaking, there were at least 100 divine beasts occupying an area. If Yaoxia invaded this place, it would definitely attract the attacks of the divine beasts in the forest of darkness. However, if they did not join forces, they would definitely not be Yaoxia's match. Once these godly beasts were destroyed and devoured, Yaoxia's strength would increase again. The Northern Alliance had to kill Yaoxia from the demon cave here. Otherwise, Yaoxia's army would officially enter the range of the life planet. At that time, all the forces would not be able to bear the losses. Fighting Yaoxia is an opportunity for the Dragon Palace. As long as we can kill enough Yaoxia, the Dragon Palace will be able to improve quickly. Chapter 2103 2103-210 3 billion demonic beasts. More than 5 million people entered the Forest of Darkness. Among them, there were more than 200 god-level experts. With such a powerful force, they could easily sweep through the entire Forest of Darkness. However, this was only the first time they came into contact with an army of demonic beasts. It was the first time they had a head-on collision. The Northern Territory Alliance did not have much information about the demon lair because they did not know how many demonic beasts would emerge from the demon lair. Be careful. After all, our understanding of the Forest of Darkness is not as good as the other factions. Wang Xian's voice was heard by all the members of the Dragon Palace. The Northern Territory Alliance said that they were an alliance. Other than having the same goal, the rest of them did not care about the lives of the other factions. Some information might not be told to them. Fortunately, the members of the Dragon Palace were relatively strong. None of them were weaker than a demigod at level 8. Most of them were at level 9 or peak. One of them could match up to a few hundred of the other party, or even more. Although the other factions mocked the Dragon Palace, Wang Xian did not take them seriously. If they were to really fight, even the 2 million disciples of the Northern Expedition Trading Company might not be a match for the more than 10,000 members of the Dragon Palace. As they proceeded forward, roars could be heard from time to time. One by one, the demonic beasts in the Forest of Darkness let out roars. As time passed, more and more roars could be heard. Some came from the surroundings while some came from the opposite side. Today, regardless of whether it was the demonic beasts or the Northern Territory Alliance, it would be a huge disaster for the demonic beasts in the Forest of Darkness. Wang Xian hovered above the Forest of Darkness and scanned his surroundings. Very soon, the Dragon Palace encountered some demonic beasts. Some weaker demonic beasts were easily killed. Demonic beasts also knew how to avoid danger. The appearance of the Northern Territory Alliance was a disaster for the demonic beasts. Furthermore, due to the appearance of the demonic beasts, many powerful demonic beasts had already fled into the vast void. Wang Xian and the rest didn't advance very quickly. He didn't allow the disciples of the Dragon Palace to advance quickly. His speed was about the same as the speed of the Northern Expedition Trading Company and the Yuhuashan sect on both sides. He wanted to avoid encountering the demonic army and being drawn over. As they ventured deeper, more and more powerful demonic beasts appeared. The Dragon Palace encountered a celestial-level demonic beast and was suppressed by the experts of the Dragon Palace. The deeper they went, the louder the violent roars became. The roars in front of them were almost endless. The roars are getting denser and denser. The demonic army should be getting closer and closer. Wang Xian thought to himself as he stared straight ahead. Everyone, be careful. At the same time, the leaders of the other 4 forces were staring ahead warily as they warned their disciples. Unlike the Dragon Palace, the other forces had more than 10 disciples working together. It seemed to be much safer than the Dragon Palace. The demonic aura is getting stronger and stronger. Wang Xian stared ahead and frowned slightly. It was the same as the demonic aura on Earth back then. Back on Earth, if it wasn't for the appearance of the Divine Mountain and the rise of the 9 dragons, these demonic auras would probably have massacred the entire Earth. The demonic aura in front of them was even stronger than the one on Earth. When Wang Xian and the rest entered about 500 kilometers into the Forest of Darkness, the roar came from afar and came closer. There are demonic beasts flying towards us. Wang Xian's pupils constricted as he stared at the location in front of him. A large number of demonic beasts were flying towards their location. Wang Xian swept his gaze over and saw that there were hundreds of thousands of demonic beasts flying over from their side alone. Many of these demonic beasts were injured, and the stench of blood assaulted their faces. They were escaping. We can't let these demonic beasts go. The demonic beasts in the Forest of Darkness are filled with savagery. Entering a life-preserving planet is also a threat. A god's angry voice rang out from the center. It could be heard clearly within a radius of tens of millions of kilometers. Attack! Wang Xian didn't hesitate and immediately ordered all the members of the Dragon Palace. At the same time, Wang Xian fixed his gaze on the two godly beasts and flew over. Two pythons with pitch-black bodies were about 10,000 meters in length. Their bodies were emitting an intense bloodlust aura. Although they were godly beasts, they didn't understand human nature as they lived in the forest of darkness. Therefore, they were more bestial. Dragon Claw! Wang Xian stretched out his arms and grabbed at the two divine beasts with his two dragon claws. He easily killed the divine beasts that only had 5 wisps of divine fire. The two divine beasts let out a shrill roar. The rest of the demonic beasts were quickly killed by the experts from the Dragon Palace. 2 demonic beasts with 5 wisps of divine fire can increase the number of godly state experts in the Dragon Palace by at least 4 to 5. A faint smile appeared on Wang Xian's face. Walalala. At this moment, the sound of leaves clashing against each other was heard. It was densely packed as though it was endless. Wang Xian immediately looked down into the forest below. With a glance, all the leaves within a few hundred kilometers were swaying. It was as though there were densely packed demonic beasts galloping in the forest of darkness. They aren't demonic beasts. Very soon, when Wang Xian saw those dark creatures with sickle-like claws galloping in the forest, he immediately recognized them. They were demonic beasts. Before they could reach the distance of 800 kilometers, they had already encountered them. The situation had completely exceeded everyone's expectations. Get ready for battle. A strong fighting spirit burst out from Wang Xian's eyes. He stared at the location below. His yin-yang and 5 elements dragon eyes were locked onto the celestial-level demonic beasts. Behind each celestial-level demonic beast was a huge dark kingdom. It was unknown if there were any more demonic beasts in the dark kingdom. There are more than 50 celestial-level demonic beasts, and 3 of them have 8 wisps of divine fire. Wang Xian looked at the demonic beasts in his area and took a deep breath. A cold look appeared in his eyes. The demonic army has appeared. Prepare for battle. A stern shout came from the Central Northern Expedition Trading Company. At this moment, all the forces felt a chill in their hearts. Enter the forest of darkness. All the evildoers are inside the forest of darkness. Wang Xian let out a soft shout and all the members of the Dragon Palace entered the forest of darkness. The 10,000-meter tall trees were rooted in the air. It looked as though they were floating in the air. In front of them, there were many demonic beasts galloping on the trees. Their blood-red eyes were staring in their direction. Get ready! Wang Xian's eyes were filled with fighting spirit. Hiss, there are so many demonic beasts. There are simply too many of them. Oh my God, they cover a radius of a few hundred kilometers and are almost endless. How many demonic beasts are there? At least half of the demonic beasts have the strength of a demigod. Everyone be careful. The Lord of the Gods might not be able to take care of us later. The disciples of the Northern Alliance were shocked when they saw this scene. There was no end to the dense group of Yaoxia. Among them, the god-level Yaoxia was roaring. He had a demon cave on his back and his blood-red eyes were staring straight ahead. Chapter 2104. 2104 Under the 210. 4 billion demonic army. Prepare for battle. Prepare to die. A shout resounded in the sky above the forest of darkness, reaching the ears of every disciple of the Northern Alliance. When everyone felt the bloody and barbaric aura charging towards them, the relaxed expression on their faces completely disappeared. Before they set off, they had thought that their group of 5 million or 200 gods, with the lowest being at the demigod level, was already very powerful. Even if they encountered the demonic army, there shouldn't be the slightest problem. However, when they saw the terrifying blood-red eyes within the dark forest of darkness and the god-level demonic demons carrying the devil den on their backs, they were all shocked. They had to prepare for death. All the disciples gritted their teeth and forced the fear out of their minds, staring at the demonic beasts in front of them. The number of demonic beasts is much more than we expected. The Light Elder of the Northern Expedition Trading Company, who was in the center, had a solemn expression on his face. I heard that a peak god-level expert died in eternal shocking thunder. It seems that we have to be careful. He mumbled, full of vigilance. They're here. They're here. Looking at Yao Xie, who was only a few dozen kilometers away, everyone held their weapons tightly. The eyes of the gods were locked onto those godly state experts. They were filled with killing intent. Kill. At the position of the Dragon Palace, Wang Xian saw Yao Xie, who was very close to them, and immediately gave the order. Kill. The members of the Dragon Palace were filled with fighting spirit. Each of the demon monkeys held a club in their hands, and their bodies were emitting a violent, murderous aura. Each and every member of the Starwood Combat Division had set up a trap to attack Yao Xie and waited for him to arrive. Just at the position of the Dragon Palace, the army of Yao Xie numbered in the hundreds of millions. Fortunately, not all of them were at the demigod level. Even so, there were at least 50 to 60 million of them. 50 to 60 million was enough to drown all the members of the Dragon Palace. The collision happened very quickly, and the 30 or so gods from the Dragon Palace released their first wave of attacks. The earth-shattering attack immediately turned all the trees within 100 kilometers into ashes. Boom, boom, boom. However, the attacks of the gods from the Dragon Palace didn't cause too many casualties to Yao Xie. Yao Xie was intelligent. In an instant, the Yao Xie with the demon cave on their backs blocked the first round of attacks. How is this possible? There are so many strong Yao Xie. Sounds of shock could be heard from other places. Obviously, similar to the Dragon Palace, the first round of attacks from the gods were blocked. Kill. Wang Xian was not too surprised. He directly attacked the 3 Yao Xie with 8 wisps of divine fire. Stepping on the poles of yin and yang, the 5 elements millstone appeared above his head. Below, a group of godly state experts from the Dragon Palace locked onto the demonic fire demons and attacked them. The rest of the members of the Dragon Palace clashed with the demonic fire demons. In the sky, Wang Xian relied on the huge 5 elements millstone to suppress the 3 demonic fire demons. GGG. The terrifying energy caused the 3 8 wisps of divine fire demons to let out an angry roar. The dark demon caves on their bodies attacked the 5 elements millstone in the sky. Boom boom. An incomparably terrifying collision sound rang out. The aftershock of the 5 elements millstone caused the 5 to 6 million demons within 100 kilometers to die instantly. Wang Xian narrowed his eyes slightly. At this moment he didn't have the slightest bit of cover-up. With a dragon roar, his entire body transformed into the body of a divine dragon and attacked the 3 demonic beasts that were about 5,000 meters away. With a wave of his dragon claws and a sway of his dragon tail, Wang Xian instantly unleashed all of his strength. Sensing the terrifying dragon aura from Wang Xian, the 3 demonic beasts with 8 wisps of divine fire trembled slightly. The demonic beasts at the demigod level trembled even more. Under the dragon aura, they could not unleash half of their strength. Roar! Wang Xian shouted angrily. The 5 elements millstone came to the sky above the 3 demonic demons. The yin and yang poles instantly arrived below them. Space of 7 elements. Wang Xian's body trembled. 7 colored lights surrounded the entire space. Other than these 3 demonic demons, there were tens of millions of other demonic demons that were sealed by the space of 7 elements. Die! After entering the space, those who were weaker than the 9 wisps of divine fire had no ability to resist at all. Wang Xian waved his arm and the 7-colored light transformed into killing intent. A miserable shriek was heard instantly. In an instant, the 3 8 wisps of divine fire demonic beasts, including tens of thousands of demonic beasts, were killed instantly. Wang Xian retracted the 7-element space and swept his gaze toward the area below. More than 10,000 experts from the Dragon Palace collided with the demons. A fierce battle broke out in an instant. Every member of the Dragon Palace was surrounded by thousands of demons. The unlucky members of the Dragon Palace were injured in an instant. However, the Demon War Department, the Starwood War Department, the Heavenly Eye Arrow Department, the Mount Department, and the Thunder Department, along with the special sound waves from the dolphins, immediately stabilized the situation of the members of the Dragon Palace. Every second, the members of the Dragon Palace were able to kill hundreds of thousands of demons. However, hundreds of thousands of demons were too few in front of this army of demons. Roar! In the sky, Ao Chitian and Ao Chi, who were emitting blood-red light, killed one God Realm demon after another. The situation in the Dragon Palace had stabilized. The terrifying war spread over tens of millions of kilometers. The war between the Northern Territory Alliance and Yao Xie had completely erupted. Casualties had also occurred at the moment of the outbreak of the war. There were too many Yao Xie, so many that it exceeded everyone's expectations. Damn it, Yao Xie, who is at the peak of the godly state, has appeared. At this moment, a shocked and angry voice rang out from the center. Wang Xian swept his gaze over, and his eyes sparkled. He stood in the void, did not make a move, because once this piece of evil is large-scale extermination, the surrounding evil is bound to rush to this side. There might even be a demon at the peak of the celestial realm. Although the evil's corpse is very important to the Dragon Palace, but cannot take this risk. He hovered over the battlefield of the Dragon Palace, quietly guarding the area. Once a disciple of the Dragon Palace was in danger, he would take action immediately. Under such circumstances, there were no casualties among the members of the Dragon Palace. Every second there were corpses. Wang Xian's body trembled. The Dragon Palace of the Divine Nation slowly appeared behind him. Prime Minister Gurei, bring some men to collect these corpses. Then, use them to increase the strength of the Dragon Palace immediately. As the Dragon Palace appeared, Wang Xian immediately gave an order to Prime Minister Gui. It's the Dragon King. Prime Minister Gui immediately nodded his head and instructed a group of members of the Dragon Palace to collect the corpses and place them into the Dragon Transformation Pool. It's fortunate that there are other forces around. Otherwise, it would be impossible for the Dragon Palace to obtain such a harvest. A smile appeared on Wang Xian's face. The dangerous demon cave was a huge opportunity for the Dragon Palace. Chapter 2105. 2105 Yuhuashan sect's request for help. The massacre continued. All the demonic beasts seemed to be endless. Wang Xian sat on the dragon throne and stared at the battlefield in front of him. After killing the 8 wisps of divine fire demonic beasts, he didn't make a move. There were no demonic beasts here that were worth his time. All he had to do was to take care of the casualties of the members of the Dragon Palace. One by one, the corpses were sent to the Dragon Palace. These corpses were much more valuable than the space locusts from before. There were many evil demons from the insightful void realm to the peak of the demigod realm. Killing 10 million evil demons should be enough to ignite the divine fire of a member of the Dragon Palace. The god who ignited the divine fire was at least as powerful as 2 wisps of the divine fire god. Moreover, there were those evil demons who had ignited the divine fire. 1 corpse was enough to increase the number of god-level existences in the Dragon Palace. Just by relying on this battle, the Dragon Palace can have 50 to 60 members ignite the divine fire. However, a portion of the resources must be used to enhance the high-end combat strength of the Dragon Palace. The moment he left, the strongest person in the Dragon Palace was Wang Xian. Currently, the Dragon Palace needed to nurture some members who had 9 wisps of divine fire or even the peak of the godly state. The resources needed to nurture these experts were too huge. Only 7 to 8 corpses with 8 wisps of divine fire could allow Ao Chitian Ao Chi, and the rest to advance 1 level and have the same combat strength as him. In order to nurture experts at the peak of the godly state, The corpses required were those at the peak of the godly state. At least 2 corpses were required. It would be great if the other 4 forces could obtain Yao Xie's corpses. Wang Xian thought to himself. The other 4 forces would definitely be able to obtain a large number of Yao Xie's corpses. However, Yao Xie was also a treasure to them, especially Yao Xie's demonic core. It could increase their cultivation level. Demonic cores at the godly state were also treasures to godly state experts. Wang Xian dismissed this idea. Prime Minister Gui, send another 5,000 members of the Dragon Palace to increase the speed of the hunt. Wang Xian ordered Prime Minister Gui. It's the Dragon King. The Dragon Palace had been summoned over by him. There were about 10,000 members in the Dragon Palace. Sending 5,000 members would increase the speed of the hunt. Wang Xian sat leisurely in the air. He even placed a cup of tea on the dragon throne as he sipped and watched. However, not everyone was as carefree as Wang Xian. The position in the center, where the Northern Expedition Trading Company was located, did not have such good luck. As for the position next to it, the God-Burning God dynasty did not have such good luck either. These 2 forces had all encountered Yao Xie, who was at the peak of the godly state. Facing Yao Xie, who was at the peak of the godly state, who was the leader of the 2 forces, they fought with Yao Xie, who was at the peak of the godly state. While they were fighting, they naturally could not take care of the rest of their disciples. This caused the battle between these 2 forces and Yao Xie to be exceptionally intense. Blood flowed like a river. Wang Xian sat in the void and looked over there from time to time. He felt a little fortunate. However, the reason for all of this should be because the Dragon Palace has too few people. Wang Xian thought of one reason and smiled. As there were too few people, most of Yao Xie would naturally choose to attack the other 4 forces. Each of the 4 forces had over 1 million disciples. Naturally, the most powerful force of General Yao Xie attacked them. The Dragon Palace had fewer people, so they encountered the least number of attacks. Kill, kill, kill. From the left, roars could be heard continuously. Wang Xian looked over and revealed a smile. He couldn't help but smile even more. That was the position of the Yu Huatian sect. The Yu Huatian sect was more pitiful. There were too many people, so it attracted a Yao Xie with 9 divine flames. That demonic evil with 9 wisps of divine fire was fighting with the supreme elder of the Yu Huatian sect in the sky. Waves of terrifying energy covered a radius of tens of thousands of kilometers. Even Wang Xian could sense it. However, he was only gloating and would not clap to congratulate them. Ha! Damn it, damn it. There are so many of these demonic evil. There is simply no end to them. On the left side of the Yu Huatian sect, the yellow-robed youth waved his sharp sword with an extremely ugly expression as he killed Yao Xie. His entire body was covered in blood. The short 10 minutes of battle had left him extremely exhausted. The number of Yao Xie in his hands had already reached more than 10,000, but there was still no decrease. The number of Yao Xie in front of him seemed to be endless. Around 1/5 of the surrounding disciples had already been lost. Tragic. If we didn't have the Yao Xie of the 9 wisps of divine fire here and the Supreme Elder protecting us, we wouldn't have suffered such a loss. The yellow-robed youth growled in a low voice with an extremely ugly expression. Suddenly, a roar came from ahead of them. His expression changed slightly. All the surrounding disciples and deity realm experts of the Yu Huatian divine sect were also shocked. They revealed horrified expressions. In the forest of darkness ahead, a terrifying demonic beast with more than 10 claws was carrying a demon cave on its back as it charged towards the Yu Huatian divine sect's supreme elder in the sky. Oh no, it's another demonic beast with 9 wisps of divine fire. Not good, another demonic beast with 9 wisps of divine fire has appeared here. Supreme Elder is in danger. Everyone's expressions changed drastically. Yu Huatian sect was only slightly stronger than the Sky Center Divine Dynasty out of the previous 5 governors. After the news of the Sky Center Divine Dynasty's destruction was spread out, Yuhuashan sect occupied the Sky Center Divine Dynasty's territory. However, they only recruited 2 forces that originally relied on the Sky Center Divine Dynasty. Among the 5 governors, they probably thought that they were only stronger than the Dragon Palace. This time, the sect master of the Yuhuashan sect did not come to resist the Demon Cave. Only the Supreme Elder had come. Now that they had encountered 2 Yao Xie with 9 wisps of divine fire, it was a fatal blow to them. Damn it, why is there another Yao Xie with 9 wisps of divine fire? Damn it, we are at the leftmost edge. At that moment, the Supreme Elder of the Yuhuashan sect, who was fighting with the 9 wisps of Yao Xie, saw another Yao Xie of the same level rushing over. His expression changed drastically. Give me 5 minutes. I can kill this demonic evil in front of me, but if another demonic evil comes, I will die without a doubt. No, I must call for reinforcements. Otherwise, I will die here today. Damn it. If I call for reinforcements, the price I will have to pay will be extremely terrifying. The Supreme Elder of Yuhuashan sect looked extremely embarrassed. His body was trembling. He never thought that he would be so unlucky. The Yuhuashan sect has requested the help of the 9 wisps of divine fire god. 2 9 wisps of divine fire demonic beasts have appeared here. The Yuhuashan sect's Supreme Elder roared with an unsightly expression as his voice spread across tens of millions of kilometers. The entire Northern Territory Alliance could hear him clearly. Oh, the Yuhuashan sect has actually encountered 2 9 wisps of divine fire demonic beasts? They are rather unlucky. All the forces heard his roar and were slightly startled. Chapter 2106 2106-2106 Yuhuashan sect's request for help. Yuhuashan sect is sending reinforcements. Should we send one person to help? This is a very good opportunity. On the far right, 3 old men were floating leisurely in the sky. The situation at the Enchanting Divine sect was similar to the situation at the Dragon Palace. On the far right, there was only one demonic devil with 9 wisps of divine fire. With the demonic god sect's power, it was very easy to deal with him. Even the demonic god sect's deputy sect master did not make a move. When an elder heard the Yuhuashan sect's request for help, he raised his brows and looked calmly at the middle-aged man in the middle. The Yuhuashan sect is on the far left. They are 8 million kilometers away from us. The demonic god sect's deputy sect master looked hesitant. As long as they went to support Yuhuashan sect, they would definitely receive huge benefits. This benefit was enough to tempt the enchanting god sect. It's too far. Let's forget about it. They are on the far left, but they can encounter 2 demonic beasts with 9 wisps of divine fire. If powerful demonic beasts from our side come over, we will suffer a huge loss. The vice sect master of the enchanting god sect hesitated for a moment, but in the end he shook his head. Although they hadn't been attacked by the powerful Yao Xie, they were too far away. If something happened to them, they wouldn't be able to make it in time. They couldn't take this risk. Indeed, if we weren't so far apart, we could have attacked. Let's forget about it for now. A god of 9 wisps of divine fire shook his head. The demonic god sect didn't respond. The god-burning god dynasty and the Northern Expedition Chamber of Commerce didn't respond either. Both of their forces were attacked by Yao Xie, who was at the peak of the deity realm. Without the order of a powerhouse at the peak of the deity realm, it was impossible for the rest of the gods to go over to assist them. Furthermore, the situation on their side was extremely urgent. As for the Dragon Palace, when Wang Xian heard Yuhuashan sect asking for help, the corner of his mouth curled up slightly. His face was filled with schadenfreude. There was no response. Not a single faction responded. At this moment, the Supreme Elder of the Yuhuashan sect, who was holding back 2 demonic beasts by himself, had an extremely ugly expression on his face. It was extremely difficult for him to hold back 2 demonic beasts of the same level by himself. Now that he had already erupted out of the divine kingdom, he would die very soon if he continued to fight. Once he died, all the disciples of the Yu Huashan sect would be finished. Without reinforcements, what should we do? Our Grand Supreme Elder is in danger. Once something happens to him, we will be finished. How could we be so unlucky? We actually ran into 2 demonic beasts with 9 divine flames. All the disciples of the Yu Huashan sect looked at this scene with embarrassment and terror. If this continued, they would all die here. Ah! Some people were distracted. Faced with the terrifying Yao Xie, they continued to scream in pain. Damn it, damn it. The Supreme Elder of the Yu Huatian Divine Sect heard the screams coming from below. When he saw that the situation had worsened, his expression changed. His gaze swept to the right, and his expression became even gloomier. If the Northern Expedition Trading Company encountered Yao Xie at the peak of the deity realm, they would definitely not come over to help. The distance between the God-burning God dynasty and the demonic God sect is too far. The Dragon Palace has not encountered any powerful Yao Xie attacks. Then, the Dragon King might not have made a move yet. Why aren't there any powerful Yao Xie attacking them? His eyes were bloodshot. Why were there 2 powerful Yao Xie flying over from their side, but there were no powerful Yao Xie attacking from the Dragon Palace? Why? This won't do. If this continues, I will die here. The Supreme Elder of the Yu Huatian Divine Sect tried his best to restrain the 2 9 wisps of divine fire demonic beasts. He gritted his teeth. Dragon King of the Dragon Palace, the Yu Huatian Divine Sect requests your assistance. Dragon King, come and help me get rid of one of the 9 wisps of divine fire demonic beasts. The Yu Huatian Divine Sect will definitely repay you handsomely. He gritted his teeth and his voice traveled to the right. The cry for help from the Supreme Elder of the Yu Huatian Divine Sect stunned all the disciples of the Yu Huatian Divine Sect. Their expressions turned ugly. Everyone knew about the conflict between them and the Dragon Palace. When they came over just now, they even mocked that the number of people from the Dragon Palace was relatively small. In the end, they wanted to ask for help from the Dragon Palace instead. This was a very embarrassing matter. They actually asked for help from me. It seems like they are in a very critical situation. Wang Xian looked over there with a mocking expression on his face. Hee, your Yu Huashan sect is so powerful. Why would you need the help of a small dragon palace? Wang Xian replied indifferently. When the Supreme Elder of the Yu Huashan sect, who was fighting against Yao Xie, heard Wang Xian's words, he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. The faces of the Yu Huashan sect's disciples also changed slightly. The Dragon Palace was not willing to provide assistance. If I am killed, these 2 Yao Xie of the 9 wisps of divine fire will definitely come to your place and destroy your Dragon Palace. The Supreme Elder of the Yu Huatian Divine Sect roared angrily. Hee, you don't have to worry about our Dragon Palace. In any case, you will be the first to be destroyed. Wang Xian replied leisurely when he heard his threat. Even if he faced the 2 demonic beasts of the 9 wisps of divine fire alone, Wang Xian was confident that he could handle them and even kill them. When the Supreme Elder of the Yu Huatian Divine Sect heard Wang Xian's words, his body trembled violently and his eyes were blood red. Yuan Divine Peak, go look for the Dragon King. As long as he is willing to take action, we are willing to pay any price. He growled at a god of the Yu Huatian Divine Sect at the back. Oh, it's the Supreme Elder. At the back, a god with 6 wisps of divine fire paused for a moment. His face revealed a look of humiliation. Without any hesitation, he immediately flew towards the Dragon Palace. At this moment, even if he had to lower himself, he had to ask for the Dragon King's support. Even if it was a little humiliating, he had no choice but to lower his head at this moment. When the other disciples of the Yu Huatian Divine Sect saw this scene, their expressions became even more awkward. Someone is coming. Wang Xian, who had been paying attention to the Yu Huatian Divine Sect, saw that there was no movement for a while. Suddenly, he noticed a figure flying over. His eyes were sparkling. Dragon King. When the Yuan divine peak who was flying over saw the situation in the Dragon Palace, his expression turned even uglier. Especially when he saw Wang Xian landing on the dragon throne, drinking tea, and seeing him flying over, he almost wanted to vomit blood. Dragon King, please state a condition. As long as you are willing to support us, we will definitely agree to it. The Yuan divine peak did not hesitate at all. He clenched his teeth and bowed as he spoke immediately. One condition. When Wang Xian heard his words, he raised his eyebrows slightly. That's right. As long as our Yuhua divine sect can do it, we will definitely agree to it. Yuan Shunfeng said with embarrassment. He. Wang Xian looked at him with a glint in his eyes. I can do it. He knocked on the dragon chair lightly and said, I want the bodies of the demons that you killed. All the bodies belong to the Dragon Palace. I want the bodies of all the humans and demons. Hearing this, Yuan Shunfeng's face darkened, and his breathing quickened. Chapter 2107. 2107 2107 Support and Sneak Attack. Yao Xia's corpse. The reason why the Northern Territory Alliance could be established and why they had to become directors was partly because they were afraid that the demon cave would invade their homes. Another more important reason was that Yao Xia had demon cores. Demon cores were a huge treasure for every cultivator. This time, they came here to fight against Yao Xia. Many of them were here to obtain the demon nucleus. If they were to give all the corpses of Yao Xia to the Dragon Palace now, they would suffer a huge loss this time. All right. However, since things had come to this, they had no choice but to grit their teeth and nod their heads. He clenched his fists slightly. He was filled with humiliation. Haha, Prime Minister Gray, lead some disciples to collect Yao Xia's corpse. When Wang Xian heard their agreement, he let out a carefree smile. Helping the Yuhuashan sect to eliminate a Yao Xia with 9 wisps of divine fire was only beneficial to Wang Xian. Since the Yuhuashan sect was destroyed, Yao Xia would definitely attack them. Helping the Yuhuashan sect to eliminate a Yao Xia with 9 wisps of divine fire, there would be a group of people working for him. Wang Xian's face was full of smiles. He moved and headed straight for the Yuhuashan sect. Behind him, Prime Minister Gui led over 1,000 members of the Dragon Palace and immediately followed behind. When Yuan Divine Peak saw Wang Xian flying over, he heaved a sigh of relief. No matter what price he had to pay, he had to get through this crisis first. Everyone from the Yuhuashan sect, it seems that the situation is not looking good. Haha, but if you are willing to pay all the corpses of demonic fire for me to take action, I will naturally not be stingy. Wang Xian flew to the Yuhuashan sect and swept his gaze across. When he saw the tragic side of the Yuhuashan sect, he could not help but laugh again. Pay all of Yao Xia's corpses? At the lower position, when some people saw the Dragon King of the Dragon Palace flying over, they heaved a sigh of relief in their hearts. When they heard this sentence, they trembled for a moment. Over 100,000 meters in the sky, the Supreme Elder of the Yuhuashan sect's face sank when he heard Wang Xian's words. We will definitely do what we promised you. Dragon King, make your move as soon as possible. If I die, your Dragon Palace will suffer as well. The Supreme Elder of the Yuhuatian Divine Sect shouted sternly. His entire body was filled with killing intent. Don't be anxious. Let's see if you can hold on for a while. Wang Xian looked over and said with a relaxed expression, Prime Minister Gui, go and collect the demonic corpse that they killed. He looked at Prime Minister Gui and the others behind him and said with a smile, It's the Dragon King. Prime Minister Gui nodded. Put away all the evil bodies. Pay attention. Don't disturb their battle. Also, keep an eye on them. If they put the evil bodies into their interspatial rings, attack them immediately. After all, they belong to us. Prime Minister Gui said to the members of the Dragon Palace. Yes. The members of the Dragon Palace answered and looked around. Many bodies were floating in the air and on the branches. Facing the billions of Yao Xia in front of them, they had no time to put the bodies into their interspatial rings. If they were not careful, they would die. No one dared to be distracted on the battlefield. Therefore, almost all of Yao Xie's corpses were around. One by one, the members of the Dragon Palace went over and put Yao Xie's corpses into their interspatial rings. All the disciples of the Yu Huatian divine sect, and even the godly state experts were stunned when they saw this scene. They nearly vomited blood and died. At least a few hundred disciples were killed by Yao Xie because they were distracted. Hurry up and send reinforcements. When the Supreme Elder of the Yu Huatian divine sect saw this scene, his eyes turned blood red as he shouted sternly. Leave one to me. Wang Xian looked at the exasperated Supreme Elder of the Yu Huatian divine sect and smiled. He moved and flew over to provide support. The 5 elements millstone attacked a Yao Xie with 9 wisps of divine fire. Roar! When the evil demon saw Wang Xian coming to his aid, it let out an angry roar and a terrifying black liquid covered him. Buzz! The 5 elements millstone swept across and blocked the evil demon's attack directly. Phew! The Supreme Elder of the Yu Huashan divine sect heaved a sigh of relief when he saw an evil demon attacking Wang Xian. His blood-red eyes stared at the evil demon in front of him in a sorry state as he held the fiery red ball in his hand tightly. The ball contained a terrifying temperature. It was a powerful divine artifact. Kill! With a ferocious roar, he poured all the anger in his heart onto Yao Xie. Yao Xie carried the demon cave on his back as surging dark energy poured down on him like a waterfall. Behind the Supreme Elder of the Yu Huashan divine sect was a divine kingdom that was also like the sun. The entire divine kingdom of the sun was exuding a terrifying temperature. The sun above his head. Die, you damned beast! The Yu Huatian sect's Supreme Elder violently threw out the ball of flames in his hand. The ball of flames instantly released beams of fiery radiance that were like rays of light. At the same time, the divine kingdom above his head smashed towards Yao Xie. He was furious, completely furious. Today was definitely the most humiliating day of his life. He requested for reinforcements from the enemy and paid a heavy price. Boom, boom, boom. Violent attacks landed on that Yao Xie continuously. In a one-on-one situation, the Supreme Elder of the Yu Huashan divine sect was confident that he could kill the Yao Xie of the 9 wisps of divine fire. Facing the Yao Xie of the 9 wisps of divine fire, Wang Xian still had to treat it seriously. However, with the divine weapons and treasures in his hands, he didn't have much pressure to deal with experts of the same level. He controlled the 5 elements millstone and kept bombarding the demonic fire in front of him. Die! 5 minutes later, an angry shout came from the side. Following that, a series of screams sounded. Wang Xian raised his eyebrows and looked over. The Supreme Elder of the Yu Huatian divine sect, who looked like he was covered in blood, stood on top of a huge sun with bloodshot eyes. Under the huge sun, the evil demon with 9 divine flames let out miserable screams. He was killed so quickly. It seems like he is going all out. He must be really angry. Wang Xian swept his gaze over and revealed a faint smile. He narrowed his eyes slightly and waved his arm. The evil demon's corpse was guided into the mother nest. The Supreme Elder of the Yu Huashan divine sect, who was standing proudly in the sky above the great sun, saw Wang Xian suddenly taking away the demonic corpse. His face darkened and his heavy breathing became a little messy. If you want to get rid of that demonic corpse, come over and help me. Get rid of this demonic corpse as well. Wang Xian's voice entered his ears, causing him to clench his fists tightly. I have consumed too much energy. I need to recover for a few minutes. Dragon King, you hold on for now. He stared at Wang Xian with a menacing gaze. The killing intent in his eyes was brewing. As he spoke, he floated in the air to recover the divine power he had consumed. He was calculating in his heart. Chapter 2108. 2108 under 2108 support and sneak attack. Damn it. We are fighting here, but the people of the Dragon Palace are collecting our spoils of war. The Supreme Elder killed the demonic evil of the 9 wisps of divine fire, and the Dragon King took away the corpse. Now he wants us to continue to attack. Just by taking action, we can gain so many benefits. The Dragon Palace is taking advantage of the situation. On the battlefield of the Yu Huatian Divine Sect, some disciples and even some god-level experts looked extremely embarrassed when they saw that the body of Yao Xie that the Grand Elder had killed was taken away. They had sacrificed all the bodies of Yao Xie, but the Dragon King was only able to defend a little. This was simply taking advantage of the situation. This made everyone from the Yu Huatian Divine Sect look indignant and extremely furious. Boom. Boom. In the sky, Wang Xian displayed his full strength. The 5 elements millstone was suspended in the sky while the yin and yang poles were located below. Streams of destructive power bombarded the demonic evil in front of him. The attacks of 7 attributes allowed Wang Xian to completely suppress the demonic evil. However, he would need at least 5 to 6 minutes to kill it. However, he was not in a hurry. This was the battlefield of the Yu Huatian sect. If you are well rested, come and help quickly. This is the location of the Yu Huatian sect. It would be bad if the aftershocks hurt your disciples. 3 minutes later, Wang Xian said to the Supreme Elder of the Yu Huatian sect. Huff, huff. The Supreme Elder of the Yu Huatian sect, who was floating in the air with his eyes closed, suddenly opened his eyes. He was like a wild beast that had just come out of its cage. He stared at Wang Xian, who was fighting with Yao Xie, and moved his palm slightly. It's fine to take advantage of the situation, but if you want to rob the Yu Huatian sect, you will have to pay a heavy price. He mumbled as a murderous intent flashed across his eyes. All right. The Supreme Elder of the Yu Huatian sect swept his gaze across the surroundings. They were all around them. Even if they killed him, the other factions would not know about it. He smiled maliciously. With a move of his palm, the ball in his hand immediately turned into a great sun and attacked the evil demon. Kill this beast as soon as possible. Great Sun of the Sky, burn! The Supreme Elder of the Yu Huatian Divine Sect shouted at Wang Xian. The Great Sun unleashed a powerful attack and attacked the evil demon. 5 elements Great Mill, trap. When Wang Xian saw him attack, the power of the 5 elements revolved. The powerful binding force caused the 9 demonic beasts to pause slightly. Roar! It looked at the great sun that was about to attack and revealed a panicked expression. However, how could the binding force of the 5 elements be so easily evaded? Boom! The huge great sun landed directly on the demonic beast's body. Roar! A miserable scream was heard. With a move of his arm, the dragon blood sword appeared in his hand. He moved his body and slashed directly at Yao Xie's head. Die! In the sky, the 5 elements millstone was restraining Yao Xie. The huge sun was burning him. Wang Xian appeared in the sky above Yao Xie and the dragon blood sword landed directly on him. Roar! The 9 wisps of divine fire stared at Wang Xian with its blood-red eyes. The demon cave on his body was emitting darkness and was eroding towards him. Yin-yang 5 elements Om's bowl. Wang Xian's body trembled as he resisted the invasion of darkness from the demon cave. Pooh! The dragon blood sword in his hand landed directly on Yao Xie's head. Ao 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 ao. The 9 wisps of divine fire. Yao Xie felt the threat of death. Its 6 claws attacked Wang Xian crazily. A counterattack before death. This is our chance, ha! Taking advantage of the situation to rob the Yu Huatian Divine Sect will cost you your life. Dragon King, not only will I kill you, even your Dragon Palace will have to pay a heavy price. At this moment, the Supreme Elder of the Yu Huatian Divine Sect, who was controlling the Great Sun, revealed a ferocious expression. He stared at Wang Xian's back with a bloodthirsty expression and his body was trembling. Divine Kingdom, destruction of the stars. Die for me, ha! The supreme elder of the Yu-Huashan divine sect could not help but let out an excited roar, releasing all of his humiliation. The divine kingdom behind him, which had never been retracted, flew out one after another meteorites that contained terrifying flames. The meteorites attacked Wang Xian directly. It was at this moment that 5 meteors smashed toward Wang Xian before the demonic beast resisted. These flaming meteors have been nurtured in the divine kingdom for tens of thousands of years. Each of them is comparable to a divine weapon. It's your honor to die under these 5 meteors of mine, Dragon King. His sinister gaze locked onto the Dragon King. The supreme elder of the Yu-Huatian divine sect's face was filled with malevolent killing intent. Oh, damn it! The supreme elder of the Yu-Huatian divine sect actually launched a sneak attack. When Wang Xian sensed the attacks coming towards him, his expression changed slightly when he heard the excited roar of the supreme elder of the Yu-Huatian divine sect. Yu-Huatian divine sect, you are courting death. You actually launched a sneak attack on me. Wang Xian's expression changed slightly. A powerful killing intent shot out from his eyes as he roared coldly. His body moved and he flew towards the sky in a hurry. However, at this moment, the demonic blood-red eyes that were pierced by the dragon blood sword in front of him were filled with madness. One by one, his claws completely sealed off Wang Xian's surroundings. Oh no! There were demonic blood-red claws that were retaliating in front of him and 5 terrifying meteorites behind him. Wang Xian's expression changed slightly. 5 elements, defend. Yin-yang, defend. Wang Xian did not panic. His body emitted a 7-colored radiance. The 7-colored radiance slowly condensed into dragon scales that covered his entire body. He was prepared to take these 2 attacks head-on. Are you prepared to take them head-on? Then let me add more fire to you. The supreme elder of the Yu-Huatian divine sect looked on with a ferocious expression. He waved his hands and a flaming spear slowly extended out from his divine kingdom that was like the sun. The flaming spear pierced straight through Wang Xian. The terrifying flaming radiance illuminated the entire sky. It was as if the void was penetrated. Our supreme elder is attacking the Dragon King who is taking advantage of the situation. Ah, good. Kill that Dragon King and let him be arrogant. He actually dares to humiliate us. Kill him. He actually dares to threaten us. Kill him. The sneak attack of the Yu-Huatian divine sect's supreme elder in the sky immediately attracted the attention of all the disciples. When they saw the Dragon King who was attacked in the middle, all of them revealed expressions of excitement and savagery. Those who dared to rob them would die. Oh no, this group of traitors. Prime Minister Jiuai's expression changed slightly when he saw this sudden scene. His eyes revealed a cold killing intent. Attack them. However, at that moment, a god with 7 wisps of divine fire from the Yu-Huashan sect not far away suddenly roared. At that moment, all the disciples of the Yu-Huashan sect knew what to do. How dare you steal from us? A yellow-robed young man saw the sudden change and immediately stared at a member of the Dragon Palace beside him. The sharp sword in his hand pierced through him. The member of the Dragon Palace who was caught off guard was instantly killed. Chapter 2109. 2109. No one could stop the people 2109 Dragon Palace wanted to destroy. Ah, how dare they snatch our fruits? Kill them. Kill those bastards from the Dragon Palace. How dare they rob us? The yellow-robed young man killed a member of the Dragon Palace. With a ferocious smile on his face, he immediately roared loudly. Kill them. I've been displeased with them for a long time. The disciples of the Yu-Huashan sect shouted excitedly. Since the Supreme Elder had attacked the Dragon King, they could do the same. Moreover, they knew that the Supreme Elder had taken advantage of the moment when the Dragon King had killed the 9 wisps of divine fire. The Dragon King would have nowhere to hide. The Dragon King, who had taken advantage of the situation, was going to die. Be careful. Run to the Dragon Palace immediately. Prime Minister Gue quickly shouted at the members of the Dragon Palace. Ha, go to hell. The disciples of the Yuhuashan sect began to attack the members of the Dragon Palace without hesitation. Retreat. The hundreds of members of the Dragon Palace turned pale and quickly ran in the direction of the Dragon Palace. This was the territory of the Yuhuashan sect. There were around 700,000 to 800,000 disciples of the Yuhuashan sect. Just a few hundred members of the Dragon Palace were no match for them. Boom! At this moment, a terrifying collision sound came from the sky. Below, all the disciples of the Yuhuashan sect were slightly shocked. They immediately looked towards the sky. In the sky, Yao Xie and Wang Xian were enveloped by a sea of flames. Yao Xie's wails could be heard faintly. Ha, Dragon King, this is what you get for offending our Yuhuashan sect. The supreme elder of the Yuhuashan sect stared at the area covered in flames and revealed a hideous smile. Is he dead? Is the Dragon King dead? He should be dead. How well done. Let them take advantage of the situation and rob us. Some disciples of the Yuhuashan sect swept their gaze over and revealed excited expressions. They were even more motivated to fight Yao Xie, who was in front of them. Your Yuhuatian divine sect is really despicable. Today, I, Wang Xian, will definitely take your dog lives. At this moment, Wang Xian's figure slowly walked out from the center of the flames. His face was filled with cold, killing intent. The sneak attack of the supreme elder of the Yuhuatian divine sect had indeed exceeded his expectations. It was also because he was more careless. He did not expect that the other party would actually dare to sneak attack him while he was resisting Yao Xie. If I don't have the dragon punishing bone today, I will be seriously injured even if I don't die. Wang Xian stared coldly at the supreme elder of the Yuhuatian divine sect. The dragon punishing bone could withstand 3 fatal attacks from those below the eternal lord. Just now, the dragon punishing bone blocked the flaming spear for him. What? You are not dead yet? When the supreme elder of the Yuhuatian divine sect saw Wang Xian walk out safely, he was slightly stunned. His face revealed a look of shock. He fixed his gaze on Wang Xian and realized that not only was he not dead, he was not injured at all. This made his heart sink. He had a bad premonition. His attack just now had used the kingdom of God. It was his strongest attack. I came to help you guys and let you guys escape this calamity. Now, you guys actually dare to sneak attack me. Wang Xian's face revealed a violent expression. He spread his arms and the incorporeal holy wings appeared behind his back. The incorporeal holy wings, which were more than 20 meters wide, didn't have any energy aura. 5 elements millstone, obliterate. The 5 elements millstone in the sky released a grayish energy. Prime Minister Gue, bring the rest of the disciples of the Dragon Palace over. Today, we will destroy the Yuhuashan sect. Wang Xian looked at Prime Minister Gue, who was leading a group of members of the Dragon Palace to escape, and immediately ordered loudly. It's the Dragon King. Prime Minister Gue nodded his head darkly and immediately flew towards the Dragon Palace. Ah! At this moment, there were screams coming from below. The screams of Yao Xie and the screams of the Yuhuashan sect disciples. Hee, do you really think you can withstand my attack? Wang Xian's gaze swept across the area below and his face revealed a cold expression. The supreme elder of the Yuhuashan sect did not manage to withstand the attack just now. All Yao Xie and the Yuhuashan sect disciples within a radius of 50 kilometers were killed. In an instant, at least 50,000 to 60,000 Yuhuatian divine sect disciples were killed. Dragon King, you are courting death. How dare you attack our Yuhuatian divine sect disciples? The supreme elder of the Yuhuatian divine sect looked over and revealed a furious expression. He roared and his voice reverberated within a radius of tens of millions of kilometers. If you dare to ambush me, today will be the end for all of you. Wang Xian snorted coldly. He flapped his primulous holy wings and attacked him directly. You are courting death. A terrifying killing intent shot out from the eyes of the supreme elder of the Yu Huatian divine sect. He waved his palm with an embarrassed expression. Streams of flaming palms were smacked toward Wang Xian. But the wings on Wang Xian's back trembled slightly and he easily dodged the attacks. In the sky, the 5 elements millstone came to the sky above the Yu Huatian divine sect's supreme elder. Streams of binding force fell towards his position. What a fast speed! When the Yu Huatian divine sect's supreme elder saw Wang Xian's speed, his heart sank. When he saw the gray light, he hurriedly dodged to the side. However, in the next moment, Wang Xian appeared beside him and slashed at the dragon blood sword in his hand. Damn it! His expression changed slightly. He waved his hand and a palm condensed from lava blocked in front of the dragon blood sword. Bang! The dragon blood sword slashed and the palm formed from lava was immediately broken. Yu Huatian's expression changed slightly when he was attacked by the supreme elder of the sect. At this moment, he could feel the gray energy enveloping him. The speed of his entire body had almost doubled. Oh no! Dragon King, now is the time to resist the demonic beasts. This is the time for us to put aside our grudges for now. His expression changed as he shouted at Wang Xian hurriedly. As long as your Yu Huatian sect is destroyed today, our grudges will end. Wang Xian's eyes were filled with killing intent. He flapped his incipient saint wings and instantly appeared behind him. The dragon blood sword in his hand slashed directly at his body. Ah! The face of the supreme elder of the Yu Huatian divine sect changed slightly. He hurriedly dodged to the side. However, Wang Xian's speed was too fast. Coupled with the interference of the 5 elements force, he only managed to avoid his vital parts. His entire right arm and a small part of his body were chopped off. Chapter 2110. 2110. No one could stop the people from 2110 Dragon Palace. What's going on? What happened between Yu Huatian sect and Dragon Palace? Could it be that the Dragon Palace and Yu Huatian sect got into a fight? Damn it! They are actually fighting among themselves at this moment. When the shouts of the Yu Huatian sect's supreme elder and Wang Xian spread across a radius of 10 million kilometers, the people from the Northern Expedition Trading Company, the God-Burning Dynasty, and the Enchanting Divine Sect looked in this direction. They frowned slightly, and their faces revealed an embarrassed expression. Now, while they were resisting the demonic forces, they were actually fighting among themselves. This made the other 3 factions' faces extremely embarrassed. The internal conflict between the Dragon Palace and the Yu Huatian Divine Sect would definitely have a great impact on the fight against the Demon Lair. At that time, they would face even more demonic forces. Are the Yu Huatian Divine Sect and the Dragon Palace courting death? At the Northern Expedition Trading Company, the bright old man growled with a gloomy face. He stared at Yao Xie, who was at the peak of the deity realm, and a furious expression appeared on his face. After dealing with this Yao Xie, he would definitely rush to the left and ask what the Yu Huatian sect and the Dragon Palace were up to. Were they trying to destroy them? Not good, our Grand Elder is injured. At that moment, all the disciples on the Yu Huatian sect's battlefield heard their Grand Elder's screams and revealed terrified expressions. When the Dragon King appeared, they were shocked. Now that they saw the Grand Elder was injured, they were even more shocked and furious. Disciples of the Dragon Palace, follow me and destroy everyone in the Yu Huatian Divine Sect. However, at this moment, 7,000 to 8,000 members of the Dragon Palace suddenly flew toward them from the right. At the forefront of the group was a group of godly state experts. More than 50 godly state members of the Dragon Palace charged toward them under Prime Minister Gui's leadership. Each member of the Dragon Palace was exuding a violent aura. What? How come they have so many godly state experts? Not good. The 50 or so people at the front are all godly state experts. Didn't the Dragon Palace only have 30 or so godly state experts? When everyone from the Yu Huatian divine sect saw this scene, they were shocked. There were only about 30-odd gods in total, and more than 20 of them were fighting against Yao Xie, who was at the godly state. Now, more than 50 godly state experts had rushed out from the Dragon Palace. This made all the disciples of the Yu Huatian divine sect feel their scalps go numb. Even those godly state experts had grave expressions and were filled with fear. Kill. At that moment, Prime Minister Gue gave an order. More than 50 godly state experts of the Dragon Palace immediately released terrifying attacks. Terrifying arrows, violent lightning, and branches filled the sky. Attacks covered the sky and covered the earth as they headed toward the disciples of the Yu Huatian sect. They were all AoE attacks and did not show any mercy. They covered Yao Xie and the disciples of the Yu Huatian sect in the middle of the battlefield. Not good, quickly block them, quickly block them. How is this possible? How can they have so many deity realm experts? When the Yu Huatian sect disciples saw so many deity realm experts in the Dragon Palace and saw the dense energy covering an area of more than 10,000 kilometers, their faces were filled with fear. Some of the disciples even looked at the attacks in despair. How could they defend? They could not defend at all. It's over. Some of the Yu Huatian sect's godly state experts turned pale as well. They quickly took action. However, the difference in the number of godly state experts was too great. In addition, some of the godly state experts were fighting against Yao Xie. They had no ability to defend. In front of them were countless Yao Xie and the godly state experts from the Dragon Palace. Boom, boom, boom. Terrifying attacks landed in the middle of the battlefield. Countless Yao Xie and 300,000 to 400,000 Yu Huatian sect disciples were killed by this round of attacks. An extremely tragic sound rang out. How is this possible? The yellow-robed youth was not in the range of the attacks. He looked at all the disciples and Yao Xie within a radius of 10,000 kilometers being cleared out. His body trembled violently. The Yu Huatian sect had millions of disciples and more than 30 deity realm experts. About 100,000 of them had died while fighting Yao Xie. Now, with just one round of attack from the Dragon Palace, at least 400,000 disciples had been killed. All of them were demigod-level disciples. Dragon Palace, Dragon King, you are courting death. The supreme elder of the Yu Huatian sect, who was in the sky, saw the scene below. His heavily injured body revealed a ferocious expression. His entire body was enveloped in flames. New arms were slowly being formed where he had been cut off. It's all your fault. Wang Xian stared at him and smiled coldly. He held the dragon blood sword in his hand and attacked him once again. The supreme elder of the Yu Huatian divine sect, who was restrained and disrupted by the powers of the 5 elements, could not react in time. Great Sun Divine Kingdom, hit it. The supreme elder of the Yu Huatian divine sect also knew the situation he was in. With a vicious expression he roared loudly. But the divine kingdom that was at the side directly collided with the 5 elements millstone in the sky. The terrifying force collided with the 5 elements millstone, causing it to fly backward. The binding force of the 5 elements on his body disappeared. His expression changed and he hurriedly flew into the divine kingdom. The vibration of the divine kingdom caused blood to flow out from the corner of his mouth. However, he couldn't care less at this moment. He stared at Wang Xian in a frenzy. Crash! A demonic glow shot out from Wang Xian's eyes. He flapped the Primalist Saint wings and continued to charge at him. Under the cover of the scorching sun, everything will be destroyed. The supreme elder of the Yu Huatian divine sect stood on the divine kingdom and roared. Rays of light shone toward Wang Xian like laser beams. The gas in the void was burning rapidly. Yin Tai Chi, defend. The dragon blood sword in Wang Xian's hand slashed and a Tai Chi pattern appeared in front of him. The Tai Chi rotated and rays of light were shifted. Wang Xian controlled the 5 elements grinding mill. The 5 divine dragons on it roared and opened their huge mouths. Boom, 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 boom. Streams of immense destructive power formed 5 columns of destruction that shot out from the mouths of the 5 divine dragons. The 5 attacks landed on the divine kingdom, causing the entire divine kingdom to tremble violently. Slash. Wang Xian raised the dragon blood sword in his hand. A 7-colored ray of light slashed directly at the supreme elder of the Yu Huatian divine sect on the divine kingdom. When the Yu Huatian divine sect's supreme elder saw the attacks, he quickly hid in the divine kingdom. However, the divine kingdom and the gods were one entity. When the attacks landed on the divine kingdom, the Yu Huatian divine sect's supreme elder revealed a trace of fear in his eyes. He vomited blood. He knew that he was no match for the Dragon King. Kill, leave no one alive. At the bottom, 7 or 8,000 members of the Dragon Palace charged into the battlefield of the Yu Huatian sect. There were more than 50 gods, and the rest were all at the peak of the 9th-rank demigod realm. They killed the disciples of the Yu Huatian sect in a frenzy. The disciples of the Yu Huatian sect who had been attacked all along were dying at a terrifying speed. Chapter 2111. 2111. No one could stop 2111 Dragon Palace from exterminating them. No. My lord, please save us, please save us. Supreme Elder, save us. Screams came from the Yu Huatian sect disciples. They looked at the powerful members of the Dragon Palace and their faces were filled with panic and despair. Facing Yao Xie and the members of the Dragon Palace, they didn't even have the chance to escape. If they continued, what awaited them would be extermination and death. One by one, the Yu Huatian sect disciples cried out for help in fear. Above the Great Sun Divine Kingdom, the Yu Huatian sect's supreme elder kept spitting out blood. He was now relying on his divine kingdom to fend off Wang Xian's attacks. A crack appeared on his divine kingdom. Every attack would cause his heart to tremble and the injuries on his body to worsen. He swept his gaze across the area and saw his disciples being killed one by one. His face was filled with fury. Dragon King, tell all of you to stop immediately. I'm warning you. If you dare to continue killing today, the Yu Huatian divine sect will not let you off. Our sect master will not let you off either. The supreme elder of the Yu Huatian divine sect roared at Wang Xian with a ferocious expression. After I exterminate all of you, I will go to your Yu Huatian divine sect's lair and kill your sect master. Wang Xian sneered when he heard the threat from the supreme elder of the Yu Huatian divine sect. He waved his arm and the 5 elements millstone flew to the sky above the divine kingdom. Below, the yin and yang poles were rotating slowly. Not good. Seeing Wang Xian continue to attack, the supreme elder of the Yu Huatian divine sect revealed a look of crisis. His heart tightened and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. If this continued, he might die. If this continued, all the disciples of the Yu Huatian sect might be killed. Vice President of the Northern Expedition Trading Company, the Dragon King of the Dragon Palace wants to destroy us. We are members of the Northern Territory Alliance. Save us. The expression of the supreme elder of the Yu Huatian sect kept changing as he shouted towards the center. At this moment, he could only pray for the experts from the Northern Expedition Trading Company to come over and stop this crazy Dragon King. No one will be able to protect you today. Wang Xian's face turned cold when he saw that Wang Xian was still trying to ask for help. His arm shook as 7-colored energy spread towards his divine kingdom. The 7 luminary space slowly surrounded him. The Yu Huatian sect is about to be destroyed? Are they not a match for the Dragon Palace? What are they doing? Those 2 damnable things are still causing trouble for us. The voice of the Yu Huatian divine sect's supreme elder caused the expressions of the experts from the Northern Expedition Trading Company to become somewhat unsightly. Qian Yuanfeng, bring some people over to take a look. Tell them whether they want to be destroyed or not. The Light Elder, who was currently fighting against a peak deity, had a gloomy expression on his face when he heard this cry for help. Their situation had been stabilized, and there was still a god with 9 divine flames to spare. It's the vice president. A burly old man nodded. He looked at the few gods beside him and flew to the left with a gloomy expression. The Dragon Palace and the Yu Transformation Divine Sect are really looking for trouble. A middle-aged man beside Qian Yuanfeng said with a gloomy expression. Let's go. Qian Yuanfeng immediately flew to the left with a cold expression. His entire body was filled with murderous intent. He was filled with anger at the situation at Yu Huashan Sect's side. They moved very, very fast. They covered a distance of several million kilometers very quickly. There doesn't seem to be any problem with the Dragon Palace. When they arrived at the battlefield at the Dragon Palace, they saw more than 10,000 members of the Dragon Palace fighting Yao Xie. The 5 of them raised their brows slightly. The members of the Dragon Palace are so powerful. No wonder only 10,000 people dare to come here. A god glanced over and said in surprise. Continue. Qian Yuanfeng paused and continued to fly toward the Yu Huashan sect. Boom. When they arrived above the Yu Huashan sect, they immediately saw a rainbow-colored space floating in the sky. The rainbow-colored space covered an area of 500 kilometers, and it was emitting chaotic and heart-palpitating fluctuations. A powerful impact came from within. This, Lord Qian, those are members of the Dragon Palace. 7,000 to 8,000 people from the Dragon Palace are slaughtering all the disciples of the Yu Huashan sect. At that moment, a god's shocked voice came from beside them. Qian Yuanfeng immediately looked over and was slightly shocked. More than 50 gods? How is this possible? There were more than 20 gods fighting against Yao Xie at the position of the Dragon Palace just now. Those people are indeed members of the Dragon Palace. Didn't the Dragon Palace only have more than 30 gods? Now there are actually more than 70. This is much more than the information we received. A shocked voice rang out, and Qian Yuanfeng's expression turned solemn. Stop. All of you, stop the Northern Expedition Trading Company. When Qian Yuanfeng saw the members of the Dragon Palace wantonly slaughtering the disciples of the Yu Transformation Divine Sect, he shouted sternly. The Lord of the Northern Expedition Trading Company is here. Lord, save us. Save us. When all the disciples of the Yu Transformation Divine Sect saw the arrival of the 5 gods of the Northern Expedition Trading Company, a look of survival appeared on their faces as they hurriedly shouted. When the yellow-robed youth who had been hiding behind them saw them, a look of hope appeared on his face as he hurriedly flew over. Lord, save us, save us. The Dragon Palace wants to destroy us. The yellow-robed youth shouted loudly. Continue, kill. Prime Minister Gue stood in the center. When he saw the yellow-robed youth wanting to fly over, his eyes revealed a cold expression. The turtle shell on his back emitted a thick earthy yellow energy. An earth spike appeared out of thin air under the yellow-robed young man. No, my lord, save me. The yellow-robed young man was shocked when he saw this scene. He didn't expect that the people of the Dragon Palace would dare to attack him in front of the experts of the Northern Expedition Trading Company. Damn it, they don't even listen to our orders. Qian Yuanfeng's expression turned cold when he saw this scene. He waved his arm, and a ray of light directly enveloped the yellow-robed youth. The earth spike was directly blocked by the light. Prime Minister Gui's expression changed slightly. If you dare to attack again, don't blame us for being impolite. Anyone who disturbs the peace of the alliance will die. Qian Yuanfeng warned once again, full of killing intent. Huff, huff, huff. The yellow-robed young man looked excited when he saw that his life was saved. Boom. No, 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 Dragon King, you can't kill me. At this moment, a terrified voice sounded. The supreme elder of the Yu Huatian divine sect suddenly rushed out from the 7 luminary space. At this moment, his face was covered in blood and he was in a terrible state. His face was full of fear and despair. Save me. He stared at Qian Yuanfeng and the other 5 and shouted desperately with his arms outstretched. Qian Yuanfeng and the rest looked over with astonishment in their eyes. No one can stop the people that my dragon palace wants to destroy. A blood-red longsword pierced into the body of the supreme elder of the Yuhuashan divine sect. Wang Xian flapped his incorporeal sacred wings and swept his gaze across the 5 people from the Northern Expedition Trading Company. Continue to kill. Whoever dares to stop us will be the enemy of our dragon palace. Wang Xian shouted coldly and angrily. Chapter 2112. 2112 was completely annihilated. Continue to kill. Anyone who dares to stop us will be an enemy of the Dragon Palace. A cold voice resounded through the void. The surrounding evildoers roared and the Yuhuashan sect disciples screamed. When they heard the Dragon King's words, their expressions changed instantly. This Dragon King actually dared to ignore the people from the Northern Expedition Trading Company. However, when they saw the Dragon King's body pierced through by the sharp sword in his hand, all of them trembled again. Their Grand Elder was actually killed. This made all the disciples of the Yuhuashan divine sect feel a wave of fear in their hearts. Boom boom boom. Wang Xian's order caused the members of the Dragon Palace to attack once again. Miserable screams rang out once again. Everyone's expression changed drastically. Dragon King. Qian Yuanfeng saw that Wang Xian did not take him seriously at all and did not place the Northern Expedition Trading Company in his eyes. His face revealed a gloomy expression. He stared at Wang Xian and shouted coldly. Dragon King, are you guys going to make an enemy out of our Northern Expedition Trading Company? During the period of resisting the demonic beasts, you killed the Alliance forces. Your Dragon Palace cannot bear this crime. He stared at Wang Xian with a murderous look and shouted again. My friend from the Northern Expedition Trading Company, I, Dragon King, have just come to support the Yuhuashan sect. I did not expect that the Grand Elder would dare to sneak attack me. With such actions, do you really think that our Dragon Palace is easy to bully? If anyone dares to stop me today, don't blame me for not giving you face. Wang Xian stared at Qian Yuanfeng and said coldly without showing any signs of weakness. Launch a sneak attack on you? Qian Yuanfeng frowned slightly. Nonsense, you are the one who wants to take advantage of the situation. You are the one who wants all the demonic corpses of the Yuhuashan sect. The yellow-robed young man saw the hesitation on the faces of the 5 people from the Northern Expedition Trading Company and immediately shouted sternly. Hee, you are just an ant. Do you still want to live? Wang Xian stared at the yellow-robed young man who had a stern look on his face. With a wave of his arm, a dragon claw went straight for him. Qian Yuanfeng's pupils constricted slightly when he saw Wang Xian attacking the young man who was protecting him. However, he pursed his lips when he sensed Wang Xian staring at him coldly and when he saw the surrounding gods locking onto him. The situation in front of him was very obvious. The Yuhuatian divine sect had invited the Dragon King to make a move and the Dragon King had demanded for all the demonic corpses. However, the Yuhuatian divine sect had no choice but to agree under such circumstances. However, they were very unwilling to accept it. The Supreme Elder of the Yuhuatian divine sect had launched a sneak attack and wanted to kill the Dragon King. In the end, he ended up in such a situation. He stood there with a gloomy face and did not make a move. He was not confident in fighting against the Dragon King's strength. The number of divine realm experts in the Dragon Palace had shocked him. Unless their vice president and the others came personally, he was a little afraid and did not dare to make a move rashly. Sir, save me, save me. The yellow-robed young man looked terrified when he saw Wang Xian's dragon claw attacking him. He turned to Qian Yuanfeng and pleaded for help. However, he did not receive any response. But the dragon claw reached out and all the sounds stopped abruptly. Do it. Wang Xian swept his gaze around and shouted softly. Kill. All the members of the Dragon Palace roared with murderous intent on their faces. They began to slaughter the disciples of the Yuhuashan sect below. Don't kill me, don't kill me. We are not from the Yuhuashan sect. Don't kill us. This matter has nothing to do with us. It has nothing to do with us. Terrified voices rang out one after another as Wang Xian floated in the sky indifferently. The Dragon Palace and the Yuhuashan sect didn't end up in a situation where one side was bound to die. However, the sneak attack by the Supreme Elder of the Yuhuashan sect and the attack by the people below were too much. Wang Xian saw it very clearly. At that time, the people from the other clans surrounding the members of the Dragon Palace were all attacking the members of the Dragon Palace. During the attack just now, dozens of the disciples of the Dragon Palace had died. It was already too late to say that it had nothing to do with them. The mistake had been made. All they had to do was to accept the judgment. Let me deal with you guys with the 8 wisps of divine fire. At this moment, Wang Xian also made his move. He locked onto 4 of the 8 wisps of divine fire and rushed over directly. Qian Yuanfeng frowned slightly as he watched the Dragon Palace massacre the Yuhuashan sect. His expression was a little ugly. This time, the Dragon Palace did not give face to the Northern Expedition Trading Company after all. HMH, Dragon King, your Dragon Palace has destroyed the Yuhuashan sect. You guys should come and resist this evil faction as well. Qian Yuanfeng growled coldly at Wang Xian. He turned around and flew toward the center. Mind your own business. Wang Xian's eyes sparkled as he watched them disappear. Wang Xian did not have a good impression of the Northern Territory Alliance. Each of the factions was based on their own interests. Even the Northern Expedition Trading Company was based on their own interests. Their style was also very domineering. Right now, I should focus on improving the strength of the Dragon Palace. Wang Xian scanned his surroundings. This time, he had obtained at least 100 immortal-level corpses. Among them, 3 of them had already ignited 9 wisps of divine fire. They were able to give birth to another member of the Dragon Palace who had the combat strength of 2 more wisps of divine fire. I wonder how much the treasures in the divine kingdom of God can increase my dragon chi. Wang Xian thought to himself with a smile on his face. War could increase the Dragon Palace's strength rapidly. He wanted to increase his strength to the peak of the godly state as soon as possible. After reaching the peak of the godly state, Wang Xian was not afraid of anyone in the entire northern region except for the 5 godly masters. The matter between the Yu Huatian divine sect and the Dragon Palace has been resolved, right? Just as Qian Yuanfeng returned to the Northern Expedition Trading Company, a voice was heard. Vice President. Qian Yuanfeng's expression darkened as he looked towards the source of the voice. When he saw that the vice president's arm was broken, he was slightly taken aback. The vice president was corroded by the power of darkness. Fortunately, the peak of the godly state Yao Xie was killed by the vice president. A deity whispered to Qian Yuanfeng. Vice President, all the members of the Yu Huatian divine sect have been destroyed by the Dragon Palace. Qian Yuanfeng immediately reported to the old man. The old man was slightly stunned. He stopped bandaging his arm and looked at Qian Yuanfeng. Vice President, the Dragon Palace is very powerful. When we went there, we found that there were more than 70 deities. When I arrived, the Dragon King killed the Supreme Elder of the Yu Hua divine sect. I wanted to stop him, but the Dragon King was very powerful. There were so many godly state experts, and I didn't defend him. Qian Yuanfeng reported to him. More than 70 godly state experts? How is this possible? Hiss, how can there be so many experts in a small dragon palace? When the surrounding gods heard his words, shock appeared on their faces. The old man's eyes also flashed with astonishment. As the strongest force outside of Eternal Thunderclap in the northern region, the Northern Expedition Trading Company only had more than 50 godly state experts. However, the Dragon Palace actually had more than 70, and this was only revealed. There were still some hidden possibilities. Are you not giving face to our Northern Expedition Trading Company? He asked Qian Yuanfeng faintly. Qian Yuanfeng nodded. Chapter 2113. 2113 Son of Heaven Devil Dragon 2113. More than 70 deity realm experts. This is truly unexpected. Fortunately, they do not have any peak deity realm experts. The bright elder muttered as he felt the threats. However, they did not destroy the Yuhuashan sect, nor did they destroy the various factions that followed the Yuhuashan sect. His eyes sparkled. The sect master of the Yuhuashan sect did not come. In addition, when they came to the Forest of Darkness to resist Yaoxia, the 200 or so deity realm experts from the 30 or so factions were only 1/3 or 1/4 of the strength of the Northern Territory Alliance. They could not send all their forces over. It would be considered a lot if they could even send 1/3 of their forces over. Most of them sent about 1/5 of their forces. In other words, the Dragon Palace did not destroy the Yuhuashan sect's forces. They only destroyed 1/4 to 1/5 of their forces. What a foolish fellow. When the Yuhuashan sect's sect master and the other forces receive this news, they will probably immediately come and destroy the Dragon Palace. The Radiant Elder said indifferently. The remaining forces of the Yuhuashan sect's forces were added together, and there were more than 100 deity realm experts. If the sect master of the Yuhuashan sect found out about this, he would definitely lead all the deities to attack and destroy the Dragon Palace. At that time, the Dragon Palace would not have the strength to withstand the wrath of the Yuhuashan sect. Vice President, are we going to tell the Yuhuashan sect about this? Qian Yuanfeng's heart skipped a beat. He had somewhat neglected the remaining forces of the Yuhuashan sect. There is no need for that for now. It will only cause more trouble. Since there are so many divine realm experts from the Dragon Palace, let them fend off Yaoxia on the left. Let nature take its course. We will not participate in this. The bright elder smiled faintly. His eyes were filled with wisdom. Yes. Qian Yuanfeng nodded slightly. The war was still ongoing. However, the danger to the Northern Region Alliance was basically over. There was no invincible existence among the army of Yaoxia. The most tragic one might be the Yu Huatian sect. They encountered 2 Yaoxia with 9 wisps of divine fire and were completely destroyed by the Dragon Palace in the end. The other forces did not suffer great losses. Of course, compared to the death of a godly state expert and the destruction of the Yu Huatian sect, the losses were huge. The losses of each faction's disciples were no less than 200,000 to 300,000. Few were finally done. Haha, so many of Yaoxia's corpses are a huge opportunity for us. 7 to 8 hours later, hundreds of millions of Yaoxia were all slaughtered. At the Northern Expedition Trading Company, an old man stared at the corpses floating in the air with excitement. Although Yaoxia is powerful, he isn't as terrifying as we imagined. At the very least, we were able to completely block him. A middle-aged man beside him also said with a smile. Next, it was time to reap the rewards. This isn't all of Yaoxia's strength. It might even be 1/5 or 1/6 of his strength. It's 1/10 of his strength. At this moment, the old man of light, whose arm was bandaged with white cloth, heard their words and said indifferently, "Oh, Vice Guild leader of the Northern Expedition, the number of demonic beasts is indeed many and very strong, but most of them have been blocked by eternal thunderclap. Our side should be relatively safe." The middle-aged man was slightly taken aback as he smiled at the old man of light. "I'm talking about the number of demonic beasts on our side." According to the information we received from the Northern Expedition Trading Company, demonic beasts occupy 3 vital planets, and they are densely packed on the planets. The number of demonic beasts we killed just now might not even be half a planet. The old man of light shook his head. This can't be true, right? Everyone was slightly shocked, and shock appeared on their faces. This is only the beginning. We cannot let our guard down. Put away all of demonic beast corpses. Go and call the other leaders of the Northern Alliance over and have a meeting. The old man said. The surrounding people immediately nodded. A few gods went to call the leaders over. Roar, roar, roar. Roar, roar, roar. At the same time, in the vast starry sky of the northern region, 3 planets floated in the void space of the universe. On these 3 planets, bloodthirsty and evil roars could be heard continuously. The aura of the wilderness filled a radius of hundreds of millions of kilometers. Apart from the ferocious demonic beasts, there were no other creatures in this area. 2 billion demonic beasts died in one go. Even a few peak god-level demonic beasts died. Did they encounter human experts? Damn it, things didn't go as smoothly as they did at the beginning. We still need some resources. We still need some more. If we want to build an eternal divine kingdom, we must have treasures at the level of an eternal God Master. As long as I have enough resources, I'll be able to become an eternal God Master. I won't have to deal with these damn demons, and some of them won't even be under my control. On the planet in the center, there was a huge creature sitting on a mountain peak. Its entire body was pitch black, and it had pieces of shiny black scales. Its huge body was like a work of art. From afar, it didn't look evil at all. Instead, it exuded a kind of dignity and majesty. Roar. Looks like I'll have to move out myself. I hope I'll be able to obtain a good harvest from the God Lord level forces. As for the other places, I'll stop for now. A dragon's roar sounded from his mouth. Following that, he raised his proud head slightly and flew towards a certain direction in the air. Servants, follow me. Roar. He swayed his huge body and flew directly into the void. With a wild roar, he gave off an incomparably terrifying pressure. Roar, roar, roar. The entire planet's Yaoxia let out a roar, and billions of Yaoxia flew into the sky at the position behind him. Set off, eternal shocking thunder. He let out a low roar, and his body swayed as he flew towards the direction of eternal shocking thunder. No one knew what happened here, nor did anyone see it. If Wang Xian saw that huge creature, he would definitely recognize it immediately. The demonic dragon's son of heaven. Everyone, take a seat. In the sky above the forest of darkness, a huge divine kingdom was floating in the void. The people in charge of the Northern Territory Alliance had arrived one by one. Wang Xian rushed over after receiving the news. He scanned his surroundings. There were 33 people in the previous meeting, but there were only about 20 of them now. Of course, most of them were killed by him. Everyone is here. Let's discuss what to do next. The Elder of Light swept his gaze across the surroundings and said, "Oh, the faction from the Yu Huatian Divine Sect has not arrived yet." At the location of the God-burning Divine Dynasty, an elder swept his gaze across everyone around and asked with some doubt, "They are all dead. They won't be able to come." The Old Man of Light said faintly as he looked at Wang Xian, "Don't look at me. The Yu Huatian Divine Sect asked me for help to fight against a demonic evil with 9 wisps of divine fire. However, they launched a sneak attack after that. I had no choice but to retaliate." Wang Xian said faintly, "Huh." However, when everyone around him heard his words, their expressions changed slightly. A hint of shock appeared on their faces. The Bewitching Corpse is not a small benefit to the Northern Expedition Trading Company. I didn't expect the Dragon King to want the Bewitching Corpse as well. This is not bad for us. We will sell it to whoever offers the highest price. The person in charge of the God-burning God Dynasty and the Bewitching God Sect revealed a smile. The person in charge of the other factions also revealed a smile. This was a good thing for them. Immediately convert all the corpses into strength. Ao Chiqian, Ao Xingmu, both of you enter the dragon pool and raise your strength to the 9 wisps of divine fire first. When Wang Xian returned to the Dragon Palace, the members of the Dragon Palace immediately instructed, "It's the Dragon King." The members of the Dragon Palace nodded their heads. "Prime Minister Gue, go to the God-burning God Dynasty and talk to them about purchasing demonic corpses. The more the better." Wang Xian instructed Prime Minister Gue. "Yes." Prime Minister Gue nodded his head. We have to increase the strength of the Dragon Palace as soon as possible. Wang Xian's eyes flickered. Currently, the Dragon Palace lacked experts at the peak of the godly state. They had to add a member at the peak of the godly state as soon as possible. Be it him or Ao Qitian and Ao Xingmu, one of them had to be in charge. Otherwise, the Dragon Palace would always be at a disadvantage when facing the Northern Expedition Trading Company. If I don't encounter peak stage immortal level demonic beasts in the future, I can obtain enough demonic beast corpses to form a peak stage immortal level member. He calculated in his heart. This time, more than 100 immortal level corpses would be able to greatly increase the strength of the Dragon Palace. Wang Xian decided to mainly increase the strength of the immortal level members to 3 or 4 wisps of divine fire. In this way, the members of the Dragon Palace could also deal with a large number of immortal level experts with 5 or 6 wisps of divine fire. In the next few days, all the members of the Dragon Palace were improving. The ordinary demonic corpses allowed the members of the Dragon Palace to produce more than 10 members at the peak of the immortal level. The peak of the immortal level, coupled with the ability to fight above one's level, was comparable to a wisp of divine fire. The rest of the corpses also improved the Dragon Palace greatly. Dragon King, we've discussed with the God-burning God Dynasty, the demonic God sect, and some other forces. This time, we're going to buy 20 demonic corpses, 2 of which have 9 wisps of godly fire. We've also bought a lot of demonic corpses below the godly state. We've basically spent all of our spiritual stones. On the 5th day, Prime Minister Gui came to report. Very good. 20 demonic corpses and 2 9 wisps of divine fire. This is enough to give birth to a member with 9 wisps of divine fire in our Dragon Palace. Wang Xian smiled. Dragon King, the Northern Expedition Trading Company has a lot of opinions about us snatching their business away. I'm afraid they will do us a disservice. Prime Minister Gui hesitated for a moment before reporting to him. It's possible. Wang Xian nodded. After all, the price offered by the Dragon Palace was higher than the market price in order to purchase the demonic corpses. Naturally, this would affect the interests of the Northern Expedition Trading Company. We can't care too much at this moment. The demonic corpses will attack us at an unknown time. All the demonic corpses that we will obtain next will be used to upgrade a member of the Dragon Palace. Wang Xian made up his mind. Only with a powerhouse at the peak of the godly state could the Dragon Palace not be afraid of the Northern Expedition Trading Company. Prime Minister Gui nodded. However, what happened next was beyond the expectations of all the forces. 10 days had passed, and the Forest of Darkness was still as calm as ever. There were no more Yao Xie's attacks. There was no movement in front of them either. Chapter 2115. 2115 sent a message. Vice President, our trading company has received news that Eternal Shocking Thunder has encountered a terrifying demonic attack. 5 days ago, more than 10 peak deity realm demonic beasts appeared. It's said that the mastermind behind the Devil Den has appeared. Even the Thunder God Lord was alerted and attacked. However, the mastermind was only heavily injured by the Thunder God Lord and escaped. There are even rumors that the Thunder God Lord was injured. It seems that the treasures inside Eternal Thunder Treasure Planet have been snatched away by the mastermind behind the Devil Den. The Forest of Darkness was calm and peaceful. In a divine kingdom located in the center, a middle-aged man from the Northern Expedition Trading Company stood in front of the old man and reported the situation. Oh, the mastermind behind the Devil Den has appeared? No wonder we are so calm here. It turns out that it is the treasure planet that attacked Eternal Thunder. The old man of light revealed a surprised expression when he heard the news. Treasure Planet was a treasure planet of Eternal Shocking Thunder. In the entire northern region, Treasure Planet was the most important life planet besides the Thunder God Nation. Even the Thunder God Lord was injured. Phew, luckily they didn't attack us. The old man of light muttered, "This is a good thing for us." Yes, Vice President. Currently, Yaoxia from the Demon Cave is still fighting against the experts from Eternal Shocking Thunder. Our side should be safe. The middle-aged man pondered. In that case, there's no point in staying here. The old man touched the light staff in his hand. We didn't lose much this time, but we didn't gain much either. Vice President, if it weren't for the Dragon Palace buying those Yao Xie's corpses at market prices, we could have made a lot of money. The Dragon Palace is blocking our way of making money. An old man said with a sullen face. The Dragon King of the Dragon Palace is indeed unethical and stupid. He offended so many forces as soon as he arrived. The old man of light smiled coldly. Since there are no more demons from the Demon Cave here, go and inform the Yuhuashan sect and their forces. Tell them that all of their people have been destroyed by the Dragon Palace. He looked at the middle-aged man in front of him and ordered indifferently. Oh, it's the Vice President. The middle-aged man raised his eyebrows and immediately nodded. Also, the old man said with a smile, tell them about the strength of the Dragon Palace. Our Northern Expedition Trading Company can prepare some powerful arrays for them. We want 1/3 of the spoils of war from the Dragon Palace. 1/3. Will they agree? The middle-aged man was slightly surprised and asked in surprise. Don't worry. Without the help of our arrays, even if they can destroy the Dragon Palace, they will suffer heavy losses. Yuhua Divine Sect knows what to do. Go and talk to them according to my instructions. The old man said indifferently. Yes, Vice President. The middle-aged man bowed and nodded. Vice President, this move of yours is really amazing. No wonder you didn't feel the slightest bit of anger after learning that Yaoxia's corpse had been obtained by the Dragon Palace. The middle-aged man next to him said with a face full of flattery. Hee, Yuan Long, we are businessmen. We focus on doing business. We hand over the fighting and killing to others. The old man of light taught him. Thank you for your guidance, Vice President. Yuan Long will definitely remember it. The middle-aged man immediately stood up and bowed. The old man laughed heartily and his figure slowly disappeared. Rule for a while. We will return in 2 days and have the Yuhuashan Divine Sect and the others prepare for the welcoming ceremony. A light voice entered the middle-aged man's ears. The middle-aged man moved and left immediately. With the speed of gods, it would not take long for them to reach Tianmu Planet from the Forest of Darkness. The middle-aged man came to the void of Tianmu Planet and scanned his surroundings. There were basically many factions that had gods guarding the planet. As one of the 5 governors, the Yuhuashan sect naturally had people guarding the planet. The middle-aged man moved and flew towards the planet the Yuhuatian sect occupied. The Northern Expedition Trading Company has come to inform everyone of the Yuhuatian sect. He looked down at the palace with a faint smile and lightly snorted. Oh, friends of the Northern Expedition Trading Company, please come in quickly. An old man's voice rang out as a staircase led the way. This time, I have an important matter regarding the front line that I wish to inform everyone in the Yuhuashan sect. The middle-aged man entered a luxurious palace. The old man inside gestured at him, and a maid immediately poured him a cup of tea. Oh, we haven't been able to contact our Yuhuashan sect's Grand Elder in the past few days. Is there a problem with the front line? The old man's gaze focused as he asked with a frown. There's no problem at the front line, but there's a problem with your Yuhuatian sect. The middle-aged man took a sip of tea. What? The old man suddenly stood up and stared at the middle-aged man from the Northern Expedition Trading Company. All of your Yuhuatian sect members have been exterminated by the Dragon Palace. What? The old man's face flushed red as shock appeared on his face. It's best if you inform the sect master of the Yuhuashan sect about this matter. Also, ask the sect master to confirm it so that he won't think that I'm lying to you. The middle-aged man said to him. Who? The old man's breathing quickened as he had a bad premonition. In the past few days, they had not contacted the Grand Elder and the others. At first, he did not pay much attention to it. After all, if there was anything, the Northern Expedition Trading Company would have notified them long ago. But now, he had actually received news of the Grand Elder's destruction. This was 1/5 of the entire Yuhua divine sect's deities, especially the Grand Elder, a sect guardian expert. I'll immediately contact the sect master. The old man's expression changed drastically, and he immediately took out his communication stone plate. Time slowly passed. After an hour, terrifying figures flew over. The leader was a thin and weak middle-aged man. He wore a water blue hat and a water blue robe. He held a long sword in his hand and was dressed like a carefree swordsman. However, when he charged over, his face was filled with ice-cold killing intent. Greetings, Sect Master Yuhua. The middle-aged man from the Northern Expedition Trading Company respectfully greeted the middle-aged man. Tell me everything about the front lines. The thin middle-aged man directly sat on the chair in the center, closed his eyes, and coldly said. He did not care about the thin middle-aged man's unreasonable words, and the middle-aged man from the Northern Expedition Trading Company reported everything. This included the strength of the Dragon Palace, as well as the fact that the Northern Expedition Trading Company was prepared to sponsor and support 2 9-wisps of divine fire-level arrays. Waves of terrifying killing intent brewed within the palace, and a faint rain mist enveloped the entire planet. The middle-aged man from the Northern Expedition Trading Company looked at the thin middle-aged man in shock, and his heart was filled with even more reverence. Your Northern Expedition Trading Company really knows how to do business, but I, Rain Demon Sword God, will do this business. The middle-aged man from the Northern Expedition Trading Company spoke for 20 minutes before Sect Master Yuhua finally spoke. Rain Demon Sword God. This title was the Northern Region's title for the Sect Master of the Yuhua Divine Sect. Chapter 2116. 2116 Ambushed. In the boundless star field, those who could get a title were all powerful experts. Apart from the 5 eternal god lords, the rest of the people who could get a title were mostly peak deity realm experts. The main reason why the sect master of the Yuhua divine sect could get a title and have his own title with the strength of 9 wisps of divine fire was because of one of his battle achievements. He had once killed an injured peak divine realm expert, even if it was an injured peak divine realm expert. That was the strongest existence below the eternal god lord. Ever since then, the name of Rain Demon Sword God had resounded throughout the entire northern region. He had similarly established the throne of the 4th largest faction in the northern region. Sect Master Yuhua, all the frontline personnel will return in 2 days. Tomorrow, we will send you an array formation. 2 9-wisp divine fire array formations. Unless we use more 9-wisp divine fire gods to break them, we can only wait for death. The middle-aged man from the Northern Expedition Trading Company stood up and cupped his hands at Rain Demon Sword God. Rain Demon Sword God nodded indifferently and watched the old man leave. Sect Master, could there be something? The old man said with a frown when he saw him leave. I've already confirmed the news from the Northern Expedition Trading Company. Go and inform the factions that are following us to send all their forces. They dare to kill our Yuhuatian sect's disciples and experts. I want their blood to condense into a river. Rain Demon Sword God sat there, his entire body cold. Water droplets floated around him. Each water droplet contained an icy aura, like an ice sword. It's the sect leader. 2 days later, we are here to welcome them. The middle-aged man said coldly. Dragon King, the Northern Expedition Trading Company has sent us a message. We will retreat in 2 days. At the same time, Prime Minister Gui came to report in front of the Dragon Palace's Dragon Transformation Pool. Retreat? It seems like they have received some news. We are preparing to retreat in 2 days. Wang Xian nodded his head. The Northern Expedition Trading Company was the strongest force in the northern region besides Eternal Thunderclap. They had been stationed in the northern region for hundreds of thousands of years. Their information channels were not something that the Dragon Palace could compare to. It had been 10 days since the demonic cave had attacked. They must have received some news. Wang Xian looked into the dragon transformation pool and smiled. At this moment, Ao Qitian, Ao Qi, and Ao Xingmu were entrenched in the dragon transformation pool. Their bodies contained waves of terrifying dragon might. The entire dragon blood in the dragon transformation pool seeped into the top of their heads. I thought I could only add 2 more members with 9 wisps of divine fire. After spending all the spiritual stones to buy the demonic corpse, the Dragon Palace will have 1 more member with 9 wisps of divine fire. Wang Xian looked at the 3 of them with a satisfied expression. This time around, the Dragon Palace had added 3 more members with 9 wisps of divine fire. Apart from that, the combat strength of 1 wisp of divine fire had increased by about 20. The rest of the members of the Dragon Palace had improved significantly, especially the members of the Dragon Palace who had lit the divine fire. All the forces have returned. 2 days later, a voice was heard throughout the forest of darkness. Wang Xian recalled the Dragon Palace, and the 10,000 members of the Dragon Palace followed behind him. The difference was that Wang Xian was sitting on a dragon throne. 9 wind dragons were pulling the dragon throne while the rest of the members of the Dragon Palace followed behind him. Roars were emitted from the wind dragons and shook the area within a few million kilometers. There are 9 more godly state members in the Dragon Palace. The strength of the Dragon Palace is so strong. What are those 9 creatures? Why do they look like the legendary godly dragons? It is said that the divine dragons have perished. They should be creatures with the bloodline of the divine dragons. There are at least 80 godly state experts in the Dragon Palace. In the surrounding area, when the Northern Expedition Trading Company, the God-Burning Dynasty, the Enchanting Divine Sect, and the rest of the forces saw the 9-wind divine dragons that were pulling Wang Xian along, shock appeared on their faces. They were all filled with solemnity and fear. The 80 godly state experts shocked them. The potential of the Dragon Palace was too strong. No wonder they are so tough. No wonder they dare to ignore the Yuhuashan sect and the other factions. Some of the experts frowned and muttered. With the strength of the Dragon Palace, there were not many factions in the entire northern region that dared to provoke them. These 9 creatures seem to be extraordinary. Do they have a trace of the bloodline of the divine dragons? Not bad. When the time comes, we will study the corpse of this creature. The Elder of Light swept his gaze over and revealed a faint smile. Let's go back. With a soft shout, everyone immediately flew towards Tianmu planet. Wang Xian sat on the dragon throne and listened to the exclamations around him indifferently. The reason why he revealed the divine wind dragons and the rest without any scruples was that the Dragon Palace had hidden a lot of power. Even if he revealed 9 more divine wind dragons, the Dragon Palace wouldn't mind. Did they really think that this was the full power of the Dragon Palace and that they would pay a heavy price? The 9 divine dragons held onto a throne. Even the bright elder from the Northern Expedition Trading Company looked at them with envy. To be able to hold onto a throne with 9 divine beasts, the only thing that could be done in the entire northern region was eternal thunderclap. Everyone flew toward Tianmu planet in a mighty manner. It was different from when they came. There were less than 5 million people. Why are there so many experts here all of a sudden? And it seems like there are many experts from the Yu Huatian sect. That seems to be the sect master of the Yu Huatian sect, Sword God Rain Demon. There seems to be experts from various factions following the Yu Huatian sect around. There are so many deity realm experts. Why are they here all of a sudden? Did something happen? Just as the forces of the Northern Territory Alliance were returning, a group of forces led by the Yuhuashan sect floated in the void in front of Tianmu planet. They were setting up array formations in the void. On the planet, some people were looking at the scene in shock and bewilderment, their faces filled with curiosity. 10 minutes later, all the expert disciples led by Rain Devil Sword God landed on the planet of the Yuhuashan sect. The God Realm experts from the surrounding factions who had stayed here immediately spread the news. Yu Huatian Divine Sect? It seems that they have received the news. This is going to be interesting. In the void along the way, the factions who had received the news revealed mocking expressions on their faces. They swept their gaze in the direction of the Dragon Palace and looked at the Dragon King who was sitting on the dragon throne with slight envy. The corners of their lips curled up slightly. There's a good show to watch. Now that there's no threat from the demonic nest, the fiercer they fight, the more advantageous it will be for us. Some of the powerhouses who received the news revealed smiles on their faces. None of the factions informed the Dragon Palace. Even if the Dragon Palace had purchased many demonic corpses from them, they were still happy to see it. They were happy to see the Dragon Palace and the Yu Huashan sect fighting. Huh? Wang Xian sensed some strange gazes and raised his eyebrows slightly. A hint of doubt flashed in his eyes. He looked forward and saw Tianmu Planet. Buzz. Buzz. At this moment, the surrounding space began to change. Wang Xian's expression changed slightly. Let's watch the show, huh? The top-notch experts from the Northern Expeditions Trading Company, God-Burning Empire, saw this scene and said with a smile. Chapter 2117. 2117 Dragon Extermination Palace. What happened? When the top experts laughed and flew to the side, the disciples of the Northern Alliance were slightly shocked. Look at the Dragon Palace, they seem to have entered the array formation. A young man looked over and couldn't help but exclaim. Disciples of the Northern Expedition Trading Company, move aside, don't be affected. A middle-aged man said indifferently to the disciples behind him. Hua hua hua. Hearing the middle-aged man's words, everyone retreated to the side with faces full of surprise. Boom! At this moment, they sensed a majestic aura coming from the direction of Tianmu Planet, and a towering killing intent rushed toward the void. All the disciples were shocked and quickly looked over. What happened? Some uninformed godly state experts' expressions changed slightly as they growled in low voices. The Yu Huashan sect is here for revenge. A godly state expert said indifferently as he looked at all the members of the Dragon Palace who were trapped inside the array formation. That's Yu Huashan sect's sect master, Sword God Rain Demon. He's here personally. All the experts and disciples from all the forces of the Yu Huashan sect are here. Oh my God, look, all of them are at the deity realm. They're here for revenge. They've set up an array formation in the void in advance to ambush the Dragon Palace. At this moment, everyone's expressions changed when they saw the Yu Huashan sect's sect master and the group of gods flying over. So they set up the array formation in the void to wait for the Dragon Palace to arrive. They want to destroy the Dragon Palace? Some of the disciples on Tianmu Planet were unaware of what was happening at the front line. They were shocked when they saw this scene. Surround them all. We will not let the Dragon Palace escape alone today. They dared to kill the experts and disciples of our Yu Huashan sect. I want this void to become their graveyard. A cold voice came out of Sword God Rain Demon's mouth as he unsheathed his long sword. His killing intent soared to the sky. Kill my Celestial Dynasty's disciples. I want to kill all of them. I want to slaughter all the planets they are on. The experts around Sword God Rain Demon said in a violent and cold voice. Their slightly reddened eyes stared at the people from the Dragon Palace who were enveloped by the array formation. They were filled with hatred. When they learned that the Dragon Palace had destroyed their sect and all the disciples and experts of the Divine Dynasty, they almost went berserk. Those were their elite disciples and experts. They swore to kill all the people of the Dragon Palace. Cold killing intent gathered in the void. All the other forces of the Northern Territory Alliance retreated more than 10,000 kilometers as they stared in their direction. 120. The Yu Huashan sect sent 120 gods. This is too terrifying. Some people's expressions changed slightly as they looked at the vast figures. A total of 120 gods. This was an extremely large number. Not only that, but there's also that terrifying array formation. Now, everyone from the Dragon Palace is trapped in the array formation. This time, the Dragon Palace is going to be finished. The Yu Huatian Divine Sect is fully prepared. They are already stronger than the Dragon Palace. This time, the Dragon Palace is doomed. Looking at this unsolvable scene, everyone could already imagine what would happen to the Dragon Palace. The Dragon Palace was stronger. There were 80 godly state experts, but the Yu Huatian Divine Sect was stronger. A total of 120 were led by the Rain Demon Sword God. Furthermore, the Dragon Palace was still trapped in the array formation. They would definitely die. Seeing the Yu Huatian Divine Sect taking revenge, everyone felt a chill in their hearts. Today's battle would definitely shake the entire northern regions. Yu Huatian Divine Sect. Wang Xian, who was inside the array formation, saw the 120 godly state experts of the Yu Huatian Divine Sect and the 2 million disciples around them. His eyes were sparkling. The dragon eyes of the yin-yang 5 elements swept to the side. When he saw the expressions of the Northern Expedition Trading Company, the God-Burning Dynasty, and the Enchanting Divine Sect who were watching the show, he was slightly enlightened. They already knew about the ambush this time. It was even possible that some factions among them had participated in it. Die. Blood shall be repaid in blood. Heavenly ice rain formation, heavenly lightning strike the formation. At this moment, Sword God Rain Demon, who was floating in the void with 120 godly state experts and 2 million disciples, held the formation compass in his hand. A bloodthirsty look appeared on his face. The array was activated. Raindrops killed. Thunderbolts destroyed the world. Splash. Boom, boom, boom. The moment the array was activated, the sound of rain and thunder echoed in unison, covering an area of 5,000 kilometers. There are 9 divine fire array formations, and there are 2 of them. When the surrounding millions of people saw this scene, they were extremely astonished. This time, the Yu Huatian Divine Sect could be said to be fully prepared. Yu Huatian Sect, since you dare to set up an ambush here, I shall destroy all of you. Wang Xian raised his head and scanned his surroundings. He snorted coldly. Divine Kingdom, Dragon Palace. Wang Xian let out a soft roar and the Dragon Palace slowly appeared behind him. But the moment the Dragon Palace appeared, the pillar of the Dragon Palace, the ocean-pacifying divine needle, emitted a ray of light. The dense raindrops, which looked like bombs, floated in the air without moving. Is it the power of lightning? How dare you use the lightning array formation to fight against the Dragon Palace? You are overestimating yourself. Ao Qi, Ao Qian, Ao Xingmu, and all the gods of the Dragon Palace walked out of the Dragon Palace. Ao Qi raised his head and saw the terrifying bolts of lightning about to fall. A blood-red bolt of lightning shot out of his eyes. Crack, crack, crack. He raised his arm high, and his arm that was like a hammer was raised. Boom, boom, boom. The endless power of lightning within a radius of several thousand kilometers fell towards the arm that was like a hammer and entered his body. This scene was a world-dazzling lightning. Break for me. Ao Qi let out a wild roar. The lightning that entered his body suddenly erupted and struck forward. A terrifying explosion sounded. The lightning that contained destructive power landed on the formation. The 2 formations with 9 wisps of divine fire began to tremble violently. But at this moment, Wang Xian slowly stood up from the dragon throne. The 5 elements millstones spun in the sky. He waved his arm and the 5 elements millstones spun slowly and crashed directly into the formation. There was another boom. The entire void within a radius of several thousand kilometers seemed to tremble. The space formed by the formation collapsed slowly. The appearance of the Dragon Palace, Ao Qi's attack, and Wang Xian's attack caused the 2 9 divine fire formations to collapse instantly. What? At the front, Everyone from the Yu Huatian divine sect saw the formation being broken and their faces sank instantly. They have 2 gods of 9 divine flames. The elder beside sword god Rain Demon couldn't help but let out a low roar. His expression was slightly awkward and solemn. Oh, the Dragon Palace actually broke 2 arrays of 9 divine flames. The surrounding Northern Expedition Trading Company's Elder of Light frowned slightly when he saw this scene. His face was filled with astonishment. No one expected that the Dragon Palace would be able to break 2 9-wisp array formations so easily. Ambush? You want to destroy our Dragon Palace? Wang Xian stood proudly in front of the Dragon Throne and stared at the 7 or 8 forces of the Yu Huashan divine sect. What was there to be afraid of? You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.